The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual guests. If you're a sensitive snowflake that may get easily offended, then turn this off immediately. If you want to hear the real truth about the gun culture, then stick around. This is the Armed Citizen Podcast. What is going on, my Ghost Squad? Welcome to the special edition of the Armed Citizen Podcast live. In just about 5 minutes or so, the actual debate will start. We're watching it. I'll be using the C-SPAN stream, mostly because, as Budget was saying earlier, C-SPAN doesn't give a whole lot of commentary throughout the thing. They're not going to sit there and cut in on themselves and all that. So we're going to watch it on C-SPAN. I've got some links out there to people. Hello. Battle Pup says hello. Got some links out there to some people, and if they want to jump in, they're more than welcome to. If any of you guys want to jump in, I can give you a link as well. Just let me know. The biggest thing I ask is if you are going to jump on the panel, mute yourself unless you're going to talk, but leave the talking kind of to a minimum unless you just have to make a comment. But we don't want to have a discussion over on top of the debate, because the whole point of watching the debate is to watch a debate. So if you guys want to, you're more than welcome to call in if you want, but text questions, you can put them in the comment section below. And hold on just a second. Hey, Risa, can you come get the dog for a second? No. I need for you to come here for a second. The Battle Pup has snuck into an area that she is not supposed to be in. They can't see you. They can't see you. That's all you need to do is just do that. Yeah, thanks. You're fine. They can't see you. Anyways, so like I said, if you guys want to join in, let me know, and I'll send a link out there. We are live on YouTube and on Facebook. So you might be hearing me making comments to either side. If you're out there and make a comment out there that doesn't belong to the conversation that's on your side, understand that I've got two sides going, Facebook and YouTube. So like I said, if you guys want to join in on the panel and do some commentary, let me know. I'll put the link out there and you guys can join. I want to think that yeah, that's right. Chop, damn it. The biggest thing that I really wanted to kind of see is, there's Budget. He's back. I know the Budget's at work, but Mike, if you need to jump out whenever, just jump out, but love to have you,
Are we here now?
You are roboting like a fool.
Either I'm roboting or you're roboting.
No, you're roboting bad.
One of us has a terrible connection anyway.
I think it's you, bud, unless it's me. I mean, no one said anything about me, but I can barely hear you. Like, you're roboting pretty bad. I'm going to put in this. You probably can't hear me. So, okay. I don't know if Mike can hear me or not. Budget, when you hear me or whatever, you get a better connection, come back in and all that. But so what are you guys out there in the chat, either Facebook or on the YouTube side? What are you guys looking for to get answered in this? And what is a win for Trump? What is a win for Biden? Just kind of let me know what's going on. Let's go see what's going on over here. And I need to take that off of mute. Okay, nothing going on yet. So we're going to wait just a second and we start seeing the candidates walk out. Hey, Seven, no problem. Alan B. Pro out there on Facebook says thoughts of the Biden email will be brought up by, it'd definitely be brought up by Trump. I don't know. We'll find out if the moderator will. I don't know if she will or not, but I guarantee that that Trump will bring it up. Joe out there says looking for a bloodbath. We're going to find out. You know, this is a pretty critical debate, I think, for both of them. The lead that everyone seems to have Biden with is shrinking every day, and this could really be interesting. Now, the cool thing that I like about this is what's going to happen is they have a different format, and part of the debate when they're actually getting 2 minutes to speak, at 2 minutes, once it's over, your microphone is their microphone's gonna be muted. So once your 2 minutes is up or whatever, they mute your microphone so they can't hear you. There will be no arguing back and forth. And then there's going to be an open forum where you get X amount of time and there will be debate. But every time you are talking, whether you interrupt someone or not, when you start talking, it goes against your total time. So it'll be interesting. I want to go ahead and turn this on and let's see what she has to say.
Right now, as we welcome to the stage former Vice President Joe Biden and President Donald J. Trump.
Do they shake hands? It doesn't look like it. Okay.
And I do want to say a very good evening to both of you. This debate will cover 6 major topics. At the beginning of each section, each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer my first question. The debate commission will then turn on their microphone only when it is their turn to answer, and the commission will turn it off exactly when the 2 minutes have expired. After that, both microphones will remain on, but on behalf of the voters, I'm going to ask you to please speak one at a time. The goal is for you to hear each other and for the American people to hear every word of what you both have to say. And so with that, if you're ready, let's start. And we will
let's get ready to.
No, can't say that. President Trump, the first question is for you.
Cost me some money.
The country is heading into a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now. If you notice, the mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country. And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone. We have a vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks, and it's going to be delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military is going to distribute the vaccine. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital. I had it, and I got better. And I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure. But I was in for a short period of time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight. And now they say I'm immune, whether it's 4 months or a lifetime. Nobody's been able to say that, but I'm immune. More and more people are getting better. We have a problem that's a worldwide problem. This is a worldwide problem. But I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries on what we've been able to do. If you take a look at what we've done in terms of goggles and masks and gowns and everything else, and in particular ventilators. We're now making ventilators all over the world, thousands and thousands a month, distributing them all over the world. It will go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner. It's going away.
Okay,
he didn't really answer,
Vice President
though, did
Biden, to you, how would you lead the country out of this crisis? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
220,000 Americans dead. You hear nothing else I say tonight. hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially. Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as president of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now, 1,000 deaths a day. And there are over 70,000 new cases per day. Compared to what's going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, they're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the president's own advisors have told him, we could save 100,000 lives. And we're in a circumstance where the president thus far and still has no plan, no comprehensive plan. What I would do is make sure we have everyone encouraged to wear a mask all the time. I would make sure we move in the direction of rapid testing, investing in rapid testing. I would make sure that we set up national standards as to how to open up schools and open up businesses so they can be safe and give them the wherewithal, the financial resources to be able to do that. We're in a situation now where the New England Medical Journal, one of the most serious journals in the whole world, said for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
So his plan
Trump,
is
I'd
to
like
do
follow
what's
up with
already
you in
happening.
Your comments, you
Got it.
talked about taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron. You also said a vaccine will be coming within weeks.
Yes.
Is that a
November
guarantee?
4th.
No, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are two companies, I think, within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very
Can
quickly.
you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing very well. Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very well. And we have numerous others. Then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Let me follow up with you, and because this is new information, you have said a vaccine is coming soon, within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting on the military the way I do, but we have our generals lined up, one in particular, that's the head of logistics. And this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine. And we expect to have 100 million vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
Vice President Biden, your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists of the world see it, know it, look at it, go through all the processes. And by the way, this is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter. And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you have no
I don't think we're
plan.
going to have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country. We've learned and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China from coming in heavily infected, and then ultimately Europe, but China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now he's saying, oh, I should have, moved quicker. But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me, many months behind me. And frankly, he ran the H1N1 swine flu, and it was a total disaster, far less lethal, but it was a total disaster. Had that had this kind of numbers, 700,000 people would be dead right now, but it was a far less lethal disease. Look, his own person who ran that for him, who, as you know, was his chief of staff, said it was catastrophic. It was horrible. We didn't know what we were doing. Now he comes up and he tells us how to do this. Also, everything that he said about the way, every single move that he said we should make, that's what we've done. We've done all of it. But he was way behind us.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Our response is he is xenophobic, but not because he shut down access from China. And he did it late after 40 countries had already done that. In addition to that, what he did, he made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say in January? He said, no, he said, he's being transparent. The president of China is being transparent. We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him. And then what happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed out there to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had nothing. He did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about don't worry. It's all going to be over soon. Come on. There's not another serious scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
President Trump, your reaction?
Say over soon. I say we're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does. He has the ability to lock himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace, but he has this thing about living in a basement. People can't do that. By the way, I, as the president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't do that. And Kirsten, every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families. Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be horrible to have canceled everything. I said, this is dangerous. And you catch it. And, I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals. And now I recovered. 99.9 of young people recover. 99% of people recover. We have to recover. We can't close up our nation. We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
And of course, the CDC has said young people can get sick with COVID-19 and can pass it. Vice President Biden, I want to talk broadly about strategy, though.
Can I respond to that?
30 seconds, please, and then I have a question.
No, number one, he says that we're learning to live with it. People are learning to die with it. You folks home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch their, out of habit, where their wife or husband was, is gone. Learning to live with it. Come on. We're dying with it because he has never said, he said it's dangerous. When's the last time? Is it really dangerous still? Are we dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now. What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about your two.
Excuse me, I take full responsibility. It's not my fault that it came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that it came here either. It's China's fault. They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
Vice President Biden.
The fact is that when we knew it was coming, when it hit, what happened? What did the president say? He said, don't worry, it's going to go away. Be gone by Easter. Don't worry. The warm weather. Don't worry. Maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding when he said that, but a lot of people thought it was serious. A whole range of things the president has said. Even today, he thinks we are in control. We're about to lose 200,000 more people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that, but just to finish this, when I closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months. Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. She was dancing on the streets in Chinatown in San Francisco. But when I closed, he said, this is a terrible thing. You're xenophobic. I think he called me racist even. And because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier. Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You certainly did. You certainly did.
I talked about a xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk about both of your different strategies to handling
He thought
this.
I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well,
that's obvious.
Do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President
No.
Biden? Okay. Let's talk about your different strategies toward dealing with this. Mr. Vice President, you suggested you would support new shutdowns if scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs the risk of exposure to the virus?
What I would say is I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down in large part. Why businesses have gone under, why schools are closed, why so many people have lost their living,
Schools are
why they're
open.
concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap in his golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the acts they were passing for billions of dollars to make sure people had the capacity.
But you haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
Well, no, I'm not shutting down the name, but look, you need standards. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up, more social distancing, do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums, do not open until you get this under control, under more control. But when you do open, give the people the capacity to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely. For example, schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes, more teachers, more pods. And he's refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
Let's talk about schools. President Trump,
I think we have to respond, if I might.
Please, and then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York.
There you have
look
it.
at what's going on in California. You look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina. Democrats all, they're shut down so tight, and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these people. All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and families?
I want to open the schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small, but I want to open the schools. We have to open our country. We're not going to have a country. You can't do this. We can't keep this country closed. This is a massive country with a massive economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before.
That's right.
There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often. The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And that's what's happening. And he wants to close down. He'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Simply not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open, but when they need resources to open. You need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business. You need to have, if you have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot infect one another. You need to be in a position where you can take testing rapidly and know whether a person is in fact infected. You need to be able to trace. You need to be able to provide all the resources that are needed to do this. And that is not inconsistent with saying that we're going to make sure that we open safely. And by the way, all you teachers out there, not that many of you are going to die, so don't worry about it. Come on.
President Trump, let me follow up with you quickly.
By the way, I will say this. If you go and look at what's happened to New York, it's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. And when you talk about plexiglass, these are restaurants that are dying. These are businesses with no money. Putting up plexiglass is unbelievably expensive, and it's not the answer. I mean, you're going to sit there in a cubicle wrapped around with plastic. These are businesses that are dying, Joe. You can't do that to people.
Boom.
You just can't. Take a look at New York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years. I loved it. It was vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's leaving New York.
Take a look at what New York has done in terms of turning the curve down in terms of the number of people dying. And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states. They're the states in the Midwest. They're the states in the upper
But didn't he just say
That's
he's
where the
not going to
spike
look
is
at it
occurring
blue state and red
significantly.
state?
But they're all Americans. They're all Americans. And what we have to do is say, wear these masks, number one. Make sure we get the help that the businesses need that has money's already been passed to do that. It's been out there since the beginning of the summer and nothing's happened.
President, New York has lost more than 40,000 people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what
when
about...
you say spike, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. Now it was just ruled unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed, and they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't let that happen. We have to open up, and we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect especially our seniors with heart problems and diabetes problems, and we will protect them. We have the best testing in the world by far. That's why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up with you before we move on to our next section. President Trump, this week you called Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's best-known infectious disease expert, quote, a disaster. You described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening to them, who are you listening to as you fight this?
I'm listening to all of them, including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony, but he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's okay. He said, this is not going to be a problem. We are not going to have a problem at all. When Joe says that, I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
My response is that think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell the American people. He was told this was a serious virus that spread in the air, and it was much worse than the flu. He went on record and said to one of your colleagues, recorded, that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want to tell us because he didn't want us to panic. He didn't want us, Americans don't panic. He panicked. But guess what? In the meantime, we found out in the New York Times the other day that in fact his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing. And a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers said, sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then we're going to move on.
I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it. You have raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made, you know. I could raise so much more money as president and as somebody that knows most of those people. I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America. I would blow away every record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me. I could blow away your records that like you wouldn't believe. We don't need money. We have plenty of money. In fact, we beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able to.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to move on.
Average contribution, $43.
All right, we're going to move on to our next section, which is national security. And I do want to start with the security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight. Just last night, top intelligence officials confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence this election. Both countries have obtained U.S. voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr. Vice President. What would you do to put an end to this threat? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I made it clear, and I ask everyone else to take the pledge. I made it clear that any country, no matter who it is, that interferes in American elections will pay a price. It will pay a price. It's been overwhelmingly clear this election, I won't even get into the last one, this election, that Russia has been involved, China has been involved to some degree, and now we learn that Iran is involved. They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty. That's what's going on right now. They're interfering with American sovereignty. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think the president said anything to Putin about it. I don't think he's talking to them a lot. I don't think he said a word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin about it. And I don't know what he has recently said, if anything, to the Iranians. My guess is he'd probably be more outspoken with regard to the Iranians. But the point is this, folks. We are in a situation where we have foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him that what is happening with his buddy, I will. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information that is Russian, that is not true. And then what happens? Nothing happens. And then you find out that everything that's going on here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they know I know them and they know me. I don't understand why this president is unwilling to take on Putin when he's actually paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan, when he's engaged in activities that are trying to destabilize all of NATO. I don't know why he doesn't do it, but it's worth asking the question. Why isn't that being done? Any country that interferes with us will, in fact, pay a price because they're affecting our sovereignty.
It's nice
President
to hear
Trump,
that Biden
same question
acknowledges
to
the
you.
military.
Let me ask the
Yes.
question. You're going to have 2 minutes to respond. For 2 elections in a row now, there has been substantial interference from foreign adversaries. What would you do in your next term to put an end to this? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Well, let me respond to the first part as Joe answered. Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, and it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow, and it was the mayor of Moscow's wife. And you got $3.5 million. Your family got $3.5 million. And, you know, someday you're going to have to explain, why did you get 3.5? I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia. Now, about your thing last night, I knew all about that. And through John Ratcliffe, who is fantastic, DNI, he said, the one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose, because there has been nobody tougher to Russia. Between the sanctions, nobody tougher than me on Russia. Between the sanctions, between all of what I've done with NATO, you know, I've got the NATO countries to put up an extra $130 billion, going to $420 billion a year. That's to guard against Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine. There has been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump.
Sheets.
And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took over the submarine port. You remember that very well. During your term, during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them, but you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family, but what he said was damning. And regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Vice President Biden, you may respond. 30
Okay, straight
seconds.
here.
And then I do want to follow up on the election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. We learned that this president paid 50 times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in China, and in fact is talking about me taking money. I have not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever. Number one. Number two, this is a president, I have released all of my tax returns, 22 years. Go look at them. 22 years of my tax return. You have not released a single solitary year of your tax return. What are you hiding? Why are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your businesses all around the country, all around the world. And China's building a new road to a new a golf course you have overseas. So what's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
President Trump, your response.
First of all, I called my accountants, underwrote it. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it, and it'll show how successful, how great this company is. But much more importantly than that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago, I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars. I prepaid my tax. Tens over the last number of years. Tens of millions of dollars I prepaid, because at some point they think it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So I already prepaid it. Nobody told me that.
Did your accountant
Nobody
tell
told
when
you that.
But here's the
prepaid?
thing.
And it
So
wasn't
he
written whenever they
prepays
write
this, and
They
he
keep
might
talking about
owe an extra $750.
which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions of dollars in taxes. Number one. Number two, I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know, maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions
I have
about
to
all of this,
respond to
but I'm going to let you both respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant
Yes.
about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you
As
have
soon
a
as the audit is
deadline for
finished.
when you're going to release them
I
to the
get
American
treated
people?
worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because
you
I have a
don't
lot
have
of
a time.
people in there, deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal, it was all settled until I
Joey
decided
Joe,
to
I
run
don't
for
think anyone's
president.
saying that
I get
Trump
treated
is a
very
saint
badly by the IRS,
far,
very
no.
unfairly. But we had a deal all
Lesser
done.
of two evils.
As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it. But I have paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you
Yep.
both about questions regarding your potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised to give you both a chance
Some
to
point
talk
out
about
this
this more broadly. Respond very quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show us. Just show us. Stop playing around. You've been saying for 4 years
Everybody
you're going to
knows.
release your taxes. Nobody knows it, Mr. President. What they do
Okay.
know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system. Come on.
It's a system that the
So-
system
President Trump, and then I want to get to two questions to both of you. on this.
not breaking
I
the
was
law.
put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. 48 million. I guarantee you, if I spent 1 million on you, Joe, I could find plenty wrong, because the kind of things that you've done and the kind of monies that your family has taken. I mean, your brother made money in Iraq.
Let me-
Millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune, and it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it, and you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very well.
All right, gentlemen, let me just ask some
man.
questions about all of this broadly. Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and
Here we
for a
go.
Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president. In retrospect, was anything about those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal.
He didn't say it that were inappropriate
With
though.
regard to Ukraine, we had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of Burisma, a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing, number one. Number two, the guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian government to say something negative about me, which they would not do and did not do, because it never, ever
Never
happened.
happened. You're right.
My
It never
son has
happened.
not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about? China. I have not had it. The only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
Never
President
to
Trump,
deal with
let me,
China.
let me
By the
ask
way,
my question to you.
But
and
could I
then
just
you'll-
one thing?
Very quickly.
His son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service. I won't get into that. And he didn't
Let's
have a
please
job.
do.
As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best,
Test positive
not
for
the best
cocaine.
reputation in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to this, 183, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment,
All right.
and he had no
I-
energy.
I'm going to let the vice president
That's
respond to that quickly, and
100%
then I need to get to a
dishonest.
question to you. Very
No
quickly, Mr.
basis for
President.
that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Okay, President Trump, this is for you. Since you took office, you've never divested from your business. You've personally promoted your properties abroad. A report this week, which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank account in China. So how can voters know that you don't have any foreign conflicts of
His
interest?
company
I
can have a
many
bank account in
accounts,
every
and they're
country that
all
he does
listed,
business
and they're all
in.
over the place. I
Exactly.
was a businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to, which is everybody knows about it, it's listed. The bank account was in 2013. That's what it was. It was opened it was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided, because I was thinking about doing a deal in China like millions of other people.
Everybody else.
I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president, let alone became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich. They're
Brother
like
Daryl
a
and his other
vacuum
brother
cleaner.
Daryl.
They're sucking
Okay,
up money
President
every
Trump,
place he
thank you.
goes.
We do
Not
need to
true.
move on. I do want to ask you, Vice President Biden, about China. Let's talk about China more broadly. There have, of course, President Trump has said that they should pay for not being fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus. If you were president, would you make China pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
What I'd make China do is play by the international rules, not like he has done. He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down. We are making sure that in order to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property. You have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all, number one. Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I
just
met with
said that.
Xi, when I was still vice president, he said we're setting up air identification zones in the South China Sea. You can't fly through them. I said, we're going to fly through them. We just flew B-52, B-1 bombers through it. We're not going to pay attention. They have to play by the rules. And what's he do? He embraces guys like the thugs like in North Korea and the Chinese president and Putin and others. And he pokes his finger in the eye of all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up we're 25% of the world's economy. We need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it. And that's what we did in upholding steel tariffs and a range of other things when we were president and vice president.
All right,
When you were in
let's
the
talk
White
about
House,
North Korea.
you
Let's-
opened up
I
the
have to
floodgates to
respond to that.
China.
Okay, very quickly, and then
His
we're going
son
to move
walked
on
out
to
with
North
$1.5 billion
Korea.
from China to
Not
manage after
true.
spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two, number one. Number two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President Trump, on China policy,
true.
though, what
No, but wait a
specifically are
minute.
you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going
First
to
of
make
all,
them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave
New
$28 billion.
sanctions? New sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers.
Taxpayers' money.
It's what?
Taxpayers' money. Didn't come from
Yeah,
China.
you know who the taxpayer is. It's called China. China
Not
paid
true.
$28 billion, and you know what they did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them 25% on dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not going to have a steel industry.
Okay.
And now we have a steel
Okay,
industry.
Vice President Biden, your response, please.
Our response is, look, this isn't about, there's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason for it. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's
Just
about
did.
your family. And your family's hurting badly. If you're making if you're a middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now. You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires, they're bald because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the
I'm
mortgage?
having no
Who's gonna
problems
tell her
whatsoever.
She can't go back to community college. They're the decisions you're making. And the middle-class families like I grew up in Scranton and Claymont, they're in trouble. We should be talking about your families, but that's the last thing he wants to talk about.
I want
That is a
to talk
typical
about
statement.
North Korea.
Excuse me, just
I do
for
want
1
to turn
second,
to
please.
10 seconds, Mr. President.
That's
10
a
seconds.
typical political statement. Let's get off this China thing, and then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just
All
a
right.
typical politician when I see that.
Let's talk
I'm
about
not
North
a typical
Korea now.
politician.
Okay,
That's why I got elected.
Let's talk
Let's
about-
get off the subject of China. Let's talk sitting around the table.
All right.
Come on, Joe, you can do better.
We're going to talk about North Korea now. President Trump, you've met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un 3 times. You've talked about your beautiful letters with him. You've touted the fact that there hasn't been a war or a long-range missile test. And yet North Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic missile and continues to develop its nuclear arsenal. Do you see that as a betrayal of the relationship you forged? Just 30 seconds here because we need to get on to the next.
So when I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White House right at the beginning, had a great conversation. It was supposed to be 15 minutes and it was well over an hour. He said the biggest problem we have with North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war. And he does have plenty of nuclear capability. In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And, about 2 months ago, he broke into a certain area. They said, oh, there's going to be trouble. I said, no, they're not, because he's not going to do that. And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, is 25 miles away, millions and millions, 32 million people in Seoul. Millions of people would be dead right now.
President Trump, that's 30 seconds. Thank you. Vice President Biden, to you. North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration. Why do you think you would be able to rein in this persistent threat?
Because I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to China, that they said, why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South Korea? I said, because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy who's a thug, and he talks about how we're better off. And they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more easily than ever did before.
Let me follow up with you, Vice President Biden. You've said you wouldn't meet with Kim Jong-un without preconditions. Are there any conditions under which you would meet with him?
On the condition that he would agree that he would be drawing down his nuclear capacity to get that the Korean Peninsula should be a nuclear-free zone.
All right, let's move on to American families.
Kristen, they tried
Very
to
quickly,
meet with
10
him.
seconds, President.
They tried to meet with him. He wouldn't do it. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I got to give him a chance to respond to that before we move on.
And that's okay. You know what, North Korea, we're not in a war. We have a good relationship. People don't understand. Having a good relationship with leaders of other countries is a good thing.
We have a lot of questions to get to.
That's like saying we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded Europe, the rest of Europe. Come on. The reason he would not meet with President Obama is because President Obama said, we're going to talk about denuclearization. We're not going to legitimize you, and we're going to continue to put stronger and stronger sanctions on you. That's why he wouldn't meet with us.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on and talk about American families.
He left me a mess, Kristen.
President Trump, okay, we do need to move on.
They left me a mess. North Korea was a mess. And in fact, if you remember the first 2 or 3 months, there was a very dangerous
just mute him like you said you're going to mute him. Mute him.
If
you're going to mute the button, mute the button.
There was a they left us a mess. And Obama would be, I think, the first to say it was the single biggest problem he thought that our country.
Okay, let's move on to American families and the economy. One of the issues that's most important to them is healthcare, as you both know. Today, there was a key vote on a new Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, and healthcare is at the center of her confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn that law, those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance almost overnight. So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. First of all, I've already done something that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst
Affordable Care Act.
part
He's
of
getting
Obamacare,
rid of the
as we call it.
mandate
The
in the
individual
penalty
mandate
tax.
where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated. It's gone. Now it's in court because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision, run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it as well as you can. I could have gone the other route and made everybody very unhappy. They ran it. Premiums are down. Everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is terminate it. We have the individual mandate done. I don't know that it's going to work. If we don't win, we will have to run it, and we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be better run. But it no longer is Obamacare, because without the individual mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing conditions will always stay. What I would like to do is a much better healthcare, much better, will always protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful healthcare. The Democrats will do it because there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time. And I think we're going to win the House. Okay, you'll see, but I think we're going to win the House. But come up with a better healthcare, always protecting people with pre-existing conditions. And one thing very important, we have 180 million people out there that have great private healthcare. Far more than we're talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate all of those policies. These are people that love their health care, people that have been successful, middle-income people, been successful. They have 180 million plans, 180 million people, families, under what he wants to do, which will basically be socialized medicine. He won't even have a choice. They want to terminate 180 million plans. We have done an incredible job on health care, and we're going to do even better.
Okay, Vice President Biden, yes, this is for you. Your healthcare plan calls for building on Obamacare. So my question is, what is your plan if the law is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
What I'm going to do is pass Obamacare with a public option, become Biden care. The public option is an option that says that if you, in fact, do not have the wherewithal to be, if you qualify for Medicaid, and you do not have the wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically are enrolled, providing competition for insurance companies. That's what's going to happen. Secondly, we're going to make sure we reduce the premiums and reduce drug prices by making sure that there's competition that doesn't exist now, by allowing the Medicare to negotiate drug prices with the insurance companies. Thirdly, the idea that I want to eliminate private insurance, the reason why I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance. That's why not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare. They did not lose their insurance unless they chose they wanted to go to something else. Lastly, we're going to make sure we're in a situation that we actually protect pre-existing. There's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions. None, zero. You can't do it in the ether. He's been talking about this for a long time. He's never come up with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan that we've been waiting since 17, 18, 19, and 20. The fact, I still have a few more minutes. I know you're getting anxious. The fact is that he's already cost the American people, because of his terrible handling of the COVID virus and the economic spillover, 10 million people have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have it under Obamacare.
He just wants to take the mandate away. Million
people with pre-existing conditions, and all the people from COVID are going to have pre-existing conditions. What are they going to do?
I have a follow-up for you, Vice President Biden. It relates to something that President Trump said. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine. What do you say to people who have concerns that your health care plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system run entirely by the government?
I say it's ridiculous. It's like saying that, the idea that the fact that there's a public option that people can choose, that makes it a socialist plan. Look, the difference between the president, I think healthcare is not a privilege, it's a right. Everyone should have the right to have affordable healthcare. And I am very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by all the major labor unions, as well as a whole range of other people who in fact are concerned in the medical field. This is something that's going to save people's lives, and this is going to give some people an opportunity to have health care for their children. How many of you home are worried and rolling around in bed tonight wondering what in God's name you're going to do if you get sick? Because you've lost your home insurance, your health insurance, your company's gone under. We have to provide health insurance for people at an affordable rate, and that's what I do.
President
Excuse
Trump,
me, he was
your
there
response.
for 47 years. He didn't do it. He was now there as vice president for 8 years. And it's not like it was 25 years ago. It was 3 3/4. It was just a little while ago, right? Less than 4 years ago. He didn't do anything. He didn't do it. He wants socialized medicine. And it's not that he wants it. His vice president, I mean, she is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it. You're going to have socialized medicine, just like he went with fracking. We're not going to have fracking. We're going to stop fracking. We're going to stop fracking. Then he goes to Pennsylvania after he gets a nomination, where he got very lucky to get it. And he goes to Pennsylvania and he says, oh, we're going to have fracking. And you never asked that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this, I have to say.
By the way,
but somebody
she's
should
doing
ask the
great.
question.
You can ask-
He goes for a year. There will be
We
no
have
fracking. There
we
will
do
be
have a
no
number of
petroleum.
topics
No,
we're
no,
going to
but
get
that's a
to.
big- that's a big question.
We're going to get to. We're going to get to.
It's
a
It's the
number
same
of
thing with
topics.
socialized
I have to
medicine.
respond.
Vice President, your response, please.
My response is people deserve to have affordable health care, period. Period, period, period. And the Biden care proposal will in fact provide for that affordable health care, lower premiums. What we're going to do is going to cost some money. It's going to cost over $750 billion over 10 years to do it. And they're going to have lower premiums. You can buy into the better plans, the cheaper plans, lower your premiums.
How are you going to make that? Oh, yeah, you're going to raise taxes.
And have
I
your
forgot.
drug prices drop significantly. He keeps talking about it. He hasn't done a thing for anybody on health care. Not a thing.
Kristen, when
Very
he
quickly,
says,
then I want to talk
when
about
he
what's
says
happening on
public
Capitol
option,
Hill.
he's talking about socialized medicine. And when he and healthcare, when he talks about a public option, he's talking about destroying your Medicare, totally
Wrong.
destroyed, and destroying your Social Security. And this whole country will come down. You know, Bernie Sanders tried it in
Bernie.
his state. He tried it in his state. His governor was a very liberal governor. They wanted to make it work.
Okay,
It-
let's
it was
let Vice President
impossible
Biden
to work.
respond.
It doesn't
Vice
work.
President
He's a
Biden, your
very
response.
confused guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden he's running against. And the idea that we're
I'm
in a
just glad he
situation
knows who
that
he
we're gonna
is.
destroy Medicare. This is the guy that the actuary at Medicare said, if in fact, at Social Security, if in fact he continues to withhold his plan to withhold the tax on Social Security will be bankrupt by 2023 with no way to make up for it. This is the guy who's tried to cut Medicare. So no, I mean, the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on Social Security and Medicare, come on.
He tried to get
10
rid of,
seconds,
he
Mr.
tried to hurt
President, and then I
Social
have to go to
Security
another
years
question.
Years ago. Go back and look at the records. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All
One
right,
thing,
let's move
but
on.
this
I'm
is
going to
the
move
guy
on.
that when they
Mr.
announced
President, I have to
last
move
week,
on to the next question.
They said
or
the
else
stock
we're not
market
gonna
will
have time to
boom
talk about it.
if I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay, let's
biggest
move on to
analysts
the
are
next
saying that.
question.
Let me respond.
Very quickly.
Look, the idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening. Where I come from in Scranton and Claymont, the people don't live off of the stock market. Just in the last three years during this crisis, the billionaires in this country made, according to the Wall Street, $700 billion more dollars. $700 billion more dollars, because that's his only measure. What happens to the ordinary people out there? What happens to them?
Let's talk about what's happening on
401ks,
Capitol Hill. We're
Doing
going to
fine.
move on, gentlemen.
401ks are through the roof.
We're gonna
People's
move on.
stock are through the roof.
All
And
right.
he doesn't come from Scranton. That's like he lived there for a short period of time before he even knew
We're
it.
going to move on to
And
the
he
next
left.
question.
And the people of Pennsylvania
Let me
will
move
show
on
you
to my
that.
next question,
They
gentlemen.
understand.
As of tonight, more than 12 million people are out of work. And as of tonight, 8 million more Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you been able to get them the help they need? 30 seconds here.
Because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it. I do.
But you're the president.
I do. But
It
I
doesn't
still have
work
to get
that
it.
way.
Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House.
It's
Because
called
of her.
checks and balances.
Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats, in all fairness. This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right,
By the
Mr.
way,
Vice President,
you
let-
know, the Republican leader in the United States Senate said he can't pass it. He will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
Let me
Because it
follow up
goes
with
through
you,
the
Vice
House
President.
first.
We made a
Jackie.
deal.
Because
The
let me
Republicans
ask
passed.
Vice President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to
Nice.
get a deal for the American people?
Nice.
Well, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer. This is like, it's not new. It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities that have to balance their budgets, and states that have to balance their budgets, so then have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they can keep their cities and counties running. He will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter
The
with
bill
these
that was
guys?
passed in the House was a bailout of badly run, high crime, Democrat, all run by Democrats, cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars to these states. It was also a way of getting a lot of money from our people's pockets to people that come into our country illegally. We were going to take care of everything for them. And what that does, and I'd love to do that, I'd love to help them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All right,
By the
I
way,
want
if
to.
I get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American, United States. And folks, every single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue, cops, firefighters, first responders, because teachers, because they have to balance their budget. And the founders were smart. They allowed the federal government to deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
I want to talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we are talking a lot about struggling small businesses
Yes.
and business owners these days. Do you think this is the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum wage.
I do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bail them out too. We should be bailing them out now, those small businesses. You got 1 in 6 of them going under. They're not going to be able to make it back. They passed a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help them do everything from organize how they can deal with their businesses being open safely. Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers, how they can put ventilation systems in. They need the help. The businesses as well as the schools need the help. But these guys will not help them. Is not giving them any of the money.
We are going to move on to
One
immigration,
thing very
but I
quickly,
want
he
to
said
get
we
your
have to help our
reaction.
small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it
Exactly.
should be a state option. Alabama is different than New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every state is different. It should be a state option.
You said very
We have to
recently.
help. It's very important. We have to help our small businesses.
You
How
said-
are you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages? What's going to happen, and what's been proven to happen, is when you do that, these small businesses fire many of their employees.
You said very
Not true,
recently you would
by the way.
consider raising the federal minimum
it.
wage to $15
Say
an
it.
hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to
What I
$15 an hour.
really
Is that
like,
still the case?
and I would consider it to an extent, but
In a
what I
second
really
administration?
like, in a second administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, I've lived in different places. I know different places. They're all different. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would be
Okay, President Trump,
ruinous.
thank you. Quick
No
response,
one
Vice
should
President
work
Biden.
2 jobs, 1 job, be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders, we
No,
all
they're
clap
not.
for as they come down the street.
No
because
one's
they've
making
allowed us to
$6
make
an
it.
hour.
What's happening? They deserve a minimum wage of $15. Anything below that puts you below the poverty level. And there is no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business. That is simply not true.
We're going
It
to talk
is
about
true,
immigration.
actually.
We're going to talk about immigration now, gentlemen, and we're going to talk about families within this context. Mr. President, your administration separated children from their parents at the border, at least 4,000 kids. You've since reversed your zero tolerance policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in, but they have to come in legally, and they come in through
But
merit.
how will you
let me
reunite these
just tell
kids
you,
with their
Let
families,
me just tell you,
Mr.
they
President?
built cages. You know, they used to say, I built the cages, and then they had a picture
Answer
in
the
a
question,
certain
Trump.
newspaper, and it was a picture of these horrible cages, and they said, look at these cages. President Trump built them, and then it was determined they were built in 2014. That was him.
Do you
They
have a
built
plan to
cages.
reunite the kids?
Yes,
with
we're
their
working on
families?
it we're trying very hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me bring you into this
525
conversation. Quick response and then another question to you.
These 500 plus kids came with parents. They separated them at the border to make it a disincentive to come to begin with. They real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
Let me ask you a follow-up
Kristen,
question.
they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
They
to
did
that?
it. We changed.
did not
They built the
separate
cages.
They,
Who built the cages, Joe?
let's talk about what
Who
we're
built the
talking about.
cages,
Let's
Joe?
talk about what we're talking about. What happened? Parents were ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated. And now they cannot find over 500 sets of those parents, and those kids are alone. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say this.
immigration.
They
10
went down. We
seconds, and then
brought
I need to ask
reporters,
you.
everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
But some
and
of
have
them
gotten
haven't been
such
reunited
But
with their
just ask
families.
one question. Who built the cages? I'd love you to ask him that. Who built the cages?
Let me ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President. The Obama administration did fail to deliver immigration reform, which had been a key promise during the administration. It also presided over record deportations as well as family detentions at the border before changing course. So why should voters trust you with an immigration overhaul now?
Because we made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. And the
Oh,
fact
so he's
is, I
blaming
made it very
Obama.
clear.
Snap.
Within
He just
100
dropped the
days, I'm going
bomb.
to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship. The idea that they are being sent home by this guy and they want to do that is they've gone to a country they've never seen before. I can imagine you're 5 years old, your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande River and it's illegal. And you say, oh no, Mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you. They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
President
Kristen,
Trump,
he
your
had
reaction.
8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've
We
changed
did.
without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep children in.
Vice President
Wrong.
Biden, your response.
The catch and release, you know what he's talking about there? If in fact you had a family came across and they were arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released. And guess what? They showed up for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America.
They weren't
That's never
seeking
happened before in
asylum,
America.
Joe. They were
You come
trying to
the
get
United
into
States and you
America.
make your case that I seek asylum based on the following premise: why I deserve it under American law. They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
President Trump, your response,
so
30
important.
seconds, and then we'll move
It just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws. Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad person would come in. We would take their name. We have to release them into our country. And then you say they come back. Less than 1% of the people come back. We have to send ICE out and Border Patrol out to find them, we would say, come back in 2 years, 3 years, we're going to give you a court case. You need Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case. When you say they come back, they don't come back, Joe. They never come back. Only the really, I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay,
But
President
they're
Trump, let's
very
give
few.
Vice President Biden a chance to respond, and then we're going to move on to the
You
next
don't know
section.
the law, Joe.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Know the law, what he's telling you is simply not true.
Well, check it out. They don't come back.
Check it out.
All right, let's move on
But we don't have to
the
worry
next
about it because they
section.
terminated it. So we don't have to worry about it
Let's
anymore.
move on to the next
And you have
section.
525 kids not knowing where in God's name they're going to be and lost their parents.
Go ahead.
All right, let's talk about our next section, which is race in America. And I want to talk about the way Black and Brown Americans experience race in this country. Part of that experience is something called the talk. It happens regardless of class and income. Parents who feel they have no choice but to prepare their children for the chance that they could be targeted, including by the police, for no reason other than the color of their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
I do. You know, my daughter is a social worker, and she's written a lot about this. She has a graduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania in social work. And you know, one of the reasons why I ended up working on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African American, was to learn more about what was going on. I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you. But a Black parent, no matter how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street, making sure that you, in fact, if you get pulled over, yes, sir, no, sir, hands on top of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making child of a $300,000 a year person or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter is there is institutional racism in America. And we have always said, we've never lived up to it, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal. But guess what? We have never, ever lived up to it, but we've always constantly been moving the needle further and further to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come along and says, that's the end of that. We're not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health care, better access to schooling, better access to opportunity to borrow money to start businesses. All the things we can do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how to do those things, just to give people a shot. It's about accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
President Trump, same question to you, and let me remind you of the question. I would like you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994 when he did such harm to the Black community. And they were called, and he called them super predators. And he said that. He said it, super predators. And they have never lived that down. 1994, your crime bill, the super predators. Nobody has done more for the Black community than Donald Trump. And if you look, with the
I don't know about
exception
that.
of Abraham Lincoln, possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln,
Really? I mean, come
nobody
on.
has done what I've done. Criminal justice reform, Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even think they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture. And everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones with Tim Scott, a great senator from South Carolina. He came in with this incredible idea for opportunity zones. It's one of the most successful programs. People don't talk about it. Tremendous investment is being made. Biggest beneficiary, the Black and Hispanic communities, and then historically Black colleges and universities. After 3 years of coming to the office, I love some of those guys. They were great. They came into the office and they said, I said, what are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? Because we have no funding. I said, you don't have to come back every year. We have to come back because President Obama would never give them long-term funding. And I did 10-year long-term funding. And I gave them more money than they asked for because they said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again because I got very friendly with them and they like me and I like them. But I saved colleges and universities.
Okay, and we're going to talk about both of your records, but your response to that, Vice President?
My response to that is I never, ever said what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is a guy who said the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail. There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the quote, the date when he said it. Not enough people. He talked about marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our cities. This is a guy who in the Central Park five innocent black kids, he continued to push for making sure that they got the death penalty. None of them were guilty of the crimes they were suggested. Look, and talk about granted, he did in fact let 20 people, he commuted 20 people sentences. We commuted over 1,000 people sentences. Over 1,000. The very law he's talking about is a law that, in fact, initiated by Barack Obama. And secondly, we're in a situation here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under our administration. And one of these things we should be doing, there should be no minimum mandatories in the law. That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts.
Mandatory minimums, not minimum
because
mandatories.
They have a drug problem. They should be going to rehabilitation, not to jail. We should fundamentally change the system, and that's what I'm going to do.
But why didn't he do it 4 years ago? Why didn't you do that 4 years ago, even less than that? Why didn't you do it? You were vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do and you're going to do this, but you were there just a short time ago and you guys did nothing.
We did.
You know, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama, because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President Biden, your response to that, and then I do have some questions for both of you.
Well, I tell you what, I hope he does look at me, because what's happening here is, you know who I am, you know who he is, you know his character, you know my character, you know our reputations for honor and telling the truth. I am anxious to have this race. I am anxious to see this take place. Character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some follow-up. Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up.
If this stuff is true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody's
President Trump, I want to stay on the issue of race. We're talking about the issue.
From hell.
President Trump, we're talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
I have to respond to that.
Please,
because look,
very quickly.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
That's exactly what.
Is this where you're
going?
This is where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You have to be kidding. Here we go again with Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue of race. Mr. President, you've described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters. You've said that Black professional athletes exercising their First Amendment rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is contributing to a climate of hate and racial strife?
Well, you have to understand, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as my relationships with all people. I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
So what do you say to Americans who are concerned by that rhetoric?
I don't know.
and by
I don't know what to say. I got criminal justice reform done and prison reform and opportunity zones. I took care of black colleges and universities. I don't know what to say. They can say anything. They can say anything.
What are you going to say?
It makes me sad because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark, but I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least racist person in this room.
Okay, Vice President Biden, let me ask you very quickly, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire. Every single one. Started off his campaign coming down the escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims. He has moved around.
Banning Muslims isn't a racist. That's not, a Muslim isn't
board.
a race. It's a religion,
about the poor boys. Last time we were on stage here, he said, I told him to stand down and stand ready. Come on. This guy is a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn.
President Trump, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have a follow-up.
You made a reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in?
You said you're Abraham Lincoln.
No, where did that? No.
You said,
I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community.
And I'm saying,
I didn't say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community. Now, you have done nothing other than the crime bill, which put
oh God,
tens of thousands of black men mostly in jail.
And
all right,
ask
let me,
about
you know
his
what?
vice
Let me
president.
ask
Remember
Vice
it, because
President
if
Biden
you look
a
at what's
question.
happening with the voting right now,
Let me ask
they
Vice
remember
President
that
Biden
you treated them
about
very, very badly.
The-
Just
the-
take a look at what's happening out there.
Vice President Biden, let me give you a chance to respond within this context. Crime
Okay.
bills that you supported in the 80s and 90s contributed to the incarceration of tens of thousands of young black men who had small amounts of drugs in their possession. They are sons, they are brothers, they're fathers, they're uncles, whose families are still to this day, some of them suffering the consequences. So speak to those families. Why should they vote for you?
one of the things is that in the 80s,
It wasn't his
passed
fault.
100%, all 100 senators voted for it, a bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake. I've been trying to change the sense, and particularly the portion on cocaine. That's why I've been arguing that, in fact, we should not send anyone to jail for a pure drug offense. They should be going into treatment across the
Who's going
board.
to pay for that treatment?
That's what we should be spending money. That's why I set up drug courts, which were never funded by our Republican friends. They should not be going to jail for a drug or an alcohol problem. They should be going into treatment. That's what we've been trying to do. That's what I'm going to get done, because I think maybe the American people have now seen that, in fact, it was a mistake to pass those laws relating to drug, but they were not in the crime bill.
But
Okay,
why
so-
didn't he get it done? See, it's all talk, no action with these politicians. Why didn't he get it done? That's what I'm going to do when I become president. You were vice president along with Obama as your president, your leader, for 8 years. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all talk and no action, Jim.
We got a
Your
lot of it
response.
done. We released
You didn't get
38,000.
anything
We got
done.
38,000 prisoners left from the.
You got
out-
nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released from federal prison. There were over 1,000 people who were given clemency. In fact, we're the ones that put in the legislation saying we could look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves. I could go on, but we began the process. We lost an election. That's why I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible policy.
I
Quick
just
response,
asked,
and then we're
I
going to
just
move
asked
on
one
to climate
question.
change.
Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time ago? Why didn't you do it? You just said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. You put tens
Because-
of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama. You know why,
Because-
Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President
Because
Biden, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
We had a Republican Congress.
Oh.
That's the answer.
Well, you
Okay.
got to talk them into it, Joe. Sometimes
All right.
you got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next section.
Like I
which
did
is
with criminal
climate
justice
change.
reform. I had
Okay.
to talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen,
You did what we
we're running out of
already done.
time, so we got to get on to
Okay.
climate change, please. You both have very different visions on climate change. President Trump, you say that environmental regulations have hurt jobs in the energy sector. Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to create new jobs. For each of you, how would you both combat climate change and support job growth at the same time? Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs. I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest, crystal clear water, the cleanest air. We have the best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard that I notice Obama goes with all the time. Not Joe. I haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows what it represents or means, but I have heard Obama use it. And we have the best carbon emission numbers that we've had in 35 years under this administration. We are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look at India. It's filthy. The air is filthy. The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord. It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in until 2030. Russia goes back to a low standard, and we kicked in right away. It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the best carbon emission standards that we've seen in many, many years.
Vice President
And we
Biden.
haven't destroyed our industries.
Vice President Biden, 2 minutes to you, uninterrupted.
Climate change, climate warming, global warming is an existential threat to humanity. We have a moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world, we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years. 4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to limit the limit of emissions will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's where we have a great opportunity. I was able to get both all the environmental organizations as well as labor, the people worried about jobs, to support my climate plan. Because what it does, it will create millions of new good paying jobs. We're going to invest in, for example, 50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future. In the meantime, China is doing that. We're going to be in a position where we're going to see to it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of millions of barrels of oil in the process and creating significant number of jobs. And by the way, the whole idea of what this is all going to do, it's going to create millions of jobs, and it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated
jobs were at stake when you were vice president because y'all
plan will,
actually
in fact,
gave
create
companies incentives to
18.6
send
million
jobs to China
7 million
to
more
clean
than
the
his. This is
air.
from Wall Street, and
You
I'll
pick
create
environment
$1
over the
trillion
people.
more in economic growth than his proposal does. Not on climate, just on the economy.
President Trump, you're
They came out and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan, that his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his plan, his
Nothing to do with
environmental
climate.
plan, you know who developed it? AOC +3. They know nothing about the climate. I mean, she's got a good line of stuff, but she knows nothing about the climate. And they're all hopping through hoops for AOC +3. Look, their real plan cost $100 trillion. If we had the best year in the history of our country for 100 years, we would not even come close to a number like that. When he says buildings, they want to take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows, as far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen. And this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how it can be good politically. Right. They want to spend $100 trillion. That's their real number. He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows. I mean, and many other things. Okay. And many other things.
Let me have the Vice President respond, and we're running out of time, and we have a lot more questions to get to. So let's hear from the Vice President. I have a number more questions.
I don't know where he comes from. I don't know where he comes up with these numbers.
Queens.
100
Queens.
trillion.
He's like,
Give
Queens.
me a break. This is planned endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Labor, because they know the future lies. The future lies in us being able to breathe, and they know there are good jobs in getting us there. And by the way, the fastest growing industry in America is solar energy and wind. He thinks wind causes cancer, windmills. It's the fastest growing jobs, and they pay good prevailing wages, $45, $50 an hour. We can grow and we can be cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
President Trump, please respond, and then I have some
We
follow-up.
are energy independent for the first time. We don't need all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent. I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive.
It is expensive.
Kills all the birds. It's very intermittent. Got a lot of problems. And they happen to make the windmills in both Germany and China. And the fumes coming up, if you're a believer in carbon emission, the fumes coming up to make these massive windmills is more than anything that we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean. One other thing.
Find me a scientist said that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really run our big, beautiful factories that we need to compete with the world. So It's all a pipe dream. But you know what we'll do? We're going to have the greatest economy in the world. But if you want to kill the economy, get rid of your oil industry. You want, and what about fracking?
All right, let me allow Vice President Biden to respond.
I never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did. Show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the matter is he's flat lying.
Would you rule out banning fracking?
I do rule out banning fracking because the answer we need other industries.
You don't even know what to say.
To transition to get to ultimately a complete zero emissions by 2025. What I will do with fracking over time is make sure that we can capture the emissions from the fracking, capture the emissions from gas. We can do that, and we can do that by investing money and doing it. But it's a transition to that.
I have one more question in this pod, and then
he was against fracking. He said it. I will show that to you tomorrow. I am against fracking. Until he got the nomination, went to Pennsylvania, then he said, but you know what, Pennsylvania? He'll be against it very soon because his party is totally against
fracking on federal land. I said no fracking or oil on federal land.
Let me ask this final question in this section, and then I want to move on to our final section. President Trump, people of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making them sick. Your administration has rolled back regulations on these kinds of facilities. Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
The families that we're talking about are employed heavily, and they're making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made. If you look at the kind of numbers that we produce for Hispanic, or Black, or Asian, it's 9 times greater, the percentage gain, than it was in 3 years, than it was under 8 years of the 2 of them, to put it nicely. 9 times more. Now, somebody lives, I have not heard the numbers or the statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. We saved it. And I saved it again a number of months ago when oil was crashing because of the pandemic. We saved it. We got, say what you want about relationship, we got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to cut back, way back. We saved our oil industry, and now it's very vibrant again. And everybody has very inexpensive gasoline. Remember
Vice President Biden, your response, and then we're going to have a final question for both of you.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near chemical plants that in fact pollute, chemical plants and oil plants and refineries that pollute. I used to live near that when I was growing up in Claymont, Delaware. And all the more oil refineries in Marcus Hook and the Delaware River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time. When my mom get in the car and when there was first frost to drive me to school, turn in the windshield wiper, there'd be oil slick in the window. That's why so many people in my state were dying and getting cancer. The fact is those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what you're paying them. It matters how you keep them safe. What do? And you impose restrictions on the pollutions the pollutants coming out of those fence line communities.
Okay, I have one final question.
Would he close down the oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close down the
falls-
oil
By the way, I
industry?
would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I will
that's a big
transition.
statement.
It is a big statement
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop
Why would you do that?
because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
Here's the deal, but you
That's a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time. And I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do
All
give
right.
it to solar and wind.
We
And
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then
Ohio.
I have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context, but the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production, by 2050 totally.
All right. One
Is he gonna
final
get
question
China to
both
do
of you.
it?
No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he
We have
going to
to
get
move on
China
to
to
our
do it?
final question. We
No,
have to
I'm
move
going
on
to
to our final
rejoin Paris
question.
Accord and make China abide by what they
He's going to
agreed to.
All right,
rejoin the
this
Paris
is about
Accord. Of
leadership,
course he is.
gentlemen. And this first question does go to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you, Mr.
We have to make a country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time, et cetera. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best Black unemployment numbers in the history of our country.
That is true.
Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, #1 in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success, but I'm cutting taxes and he wants to raise everybody's taxes and he wants to put new regulations on everything. He will kill it. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
All right. Vice President Biden, same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
I'm an
I will
American
say,
president.
I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose to move forward because we have enormous opportunities to make things better. We can grow this economy. We can deal with the systemic racism. And at the same time, we can make sure that our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy, creating millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do.
Getting rid of
And I'm going to
millions
say,
of
as I
old
said at the
jobs.
beginning, what is on the ballot here is the character of this country. Decency, honor, respect, treating people with dignity.
Creepy Joe's
making sure
talking
that
about the
everyone has an
character
even
of
chance.
someone, the
And I'm going to
decency
make
of
sure you
someone.
get that.
Oh.
You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
All right. I want to thank you both for a very robust hour and a half, a fantastic debate. Really appreciate it. President Trump, former Vice President Joe Biden, thank you to Belmont University for hosting us tonight. And most importantly, thank you to those watching tonight. Election Day is November 3rd. Don't forget to vote. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody want to jump in and if you want to, we can talk a few minutes about what's happened. There is the link to join the panel. More than welcome to come in. We can discuss what we heard and talk a little bit about the debate. I agree, Joey. Kirsten Walker did. I thought that that's one of the. I mean, there's been a lot of debates that I can remember, but that's probably one of the better moderated debates that I can remember for a long, long time. I don't know. I don't know. I wonder. This is what it drives me nuts. Okay. I don't think that we got a whole lot from either one of them. I think that Biden was going down the party lines, the cue cards, the 20-word statements, the Democrats are famous for. He just kind of stuck on that. He didn't really go in and do much with it. Trump was exactly what we thought he was. He was going to be boisterous when he had the opportunity. Thanks, Rob. Yeah. So this was made by a guy on Instagram, Sergeant Solo Projects. He does a lot more than just Marine Corps stuff, but Sergeant Solo Projects on Instagram. Hit him up. Great guy. He does some really good work. Anyways, so I think that Trump, he is what he is. He's going to be brash. He's going to call out things that you may not want to hear, but it is what it is. The problem that I had with Trump tonight was I'm not saying he ran from a couple questions. He definitely did not answer some of the questions in a way that he had an opportunity to really bash Biden on. He kind of sidestepped some questions, and I think that wasn't great. Who won the debate? I don't think anyone wins these anymore. That's just my opinion. I don't think anyone wins. I think that everyone loses from watching these debates. I think that Biden did a few things tonight that's going to piss off a lot of people. He is going to he basically threw Obama under the bus. I counted 4 times. I think it was more than that. I think that the biggest problem. What's going on down there? Oh, okay. The biggest problem is I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I'm not very smart. I think Biden lost throwing Obama under the bus. Every time that he was asked a question from Trump, he had an excuse as to why something didn't happen. And I'm not saying that excuses aren't going to be what everyone has. Everyone's going to have excuses. But I've never seen Biden ever take responsibility for anything. Trump hammered him time in and time out tonight on, if this is so important to you, why didn't you get it done the 8 years you're in the White House? 8 years, 8 years, 8 years, 8 years, 8 years. And that's going to hurt Biden, I think. I think that there are a lot of people say, that's a good question. Why didn't they get anything done? And the only answer that Biden actually had on night was, we had a Republican Congress. So instead of trying to fight for what you believe in and trying to convince somebody in what you believe in is correct, you're going to say I pull a Biden. Exactly. You're going to say, well, it didn't get done because we had a Republican Congress. Here's the problem. The American people, and you call yourself an American, you would be an American president. You don't see red and you don't see blue. You just said you couldn't get anything done because you had a Republican Congress. So what's the problem? If you're an American president, then you should be able to talk people into something that's right. If it's Republican, then you need to talk them into saying this is what's right for the environment, this is right for the economy, this is right for immigration, this is what's right. But you couldn't. The problem with having a Democratic president and a Republican Congress is this. What does that tell you? That tells you that they don't believe in what you're doing. It's what called checks and balances are for. Okay. Right now, here's Rich. You're muted, Mitch or Rich.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, man. To me, my biggest issue tonight was on both sides, honestly. I didn't hear a whole lot of policy being talked about. I heard a lot of big picture. I want to do this. I want to do this. This is why I couldn't do something back in the day. I didn't see any big policy, and maybe that's by design. I don't know. I would have thought with only the election, less than 2 weeks away, there would have been more policy talk. And I don't know if that was the moderator's fault. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it was the moderator. I mean, and they weren't getting much follow-up time either to even get into any kind of depth. I don't know if there was the time constraints, if they had a hard time limit that they were being put under. That could have something to do with it. It seemed like they were answering the questions, but weren't allowed to elaborate any farther beyond the simple question that was asked to go in deep into any kind of policy decisions.
Yeah, I do like the format, though. Honestly, I did like the format. I wish they would have stuck by it and say at 2 minutes we're just going to mute you. Instead of saying excuse me. No, just mute them. They'll stop talking if they're muted. If you want to get people to stop talking, mute them. That's just the way it is. I do like the format. I thought that Wooker did a pretty good job. I am a fan of how she controlled it much more than Chris Wallace did a few weeks ago. That was a disaster. I will say this about the policy thing is she gave them ample time, or she gave ample opportunity, I would say, to answer specifically on a couple of different topics. Now, they didn't go to a broad range of talks. We spent the first 45 minutes on Russia and China. It is what it is. But there were a couple questions in there to both candidates that were specific, and neither one of them answered. And I understand why maybe they didn't want to, or I get it. It's to the point now where anything bad is going to be compounded at the voting booths. I get it. So they don't want to say anything wrong, but can you at least try to somewhat answer a question? That's why I don't usually watch debates. I already usually have my mind made up. I don't typically watch debates. I'm watching this debate tonight because I'm truly terrified that Biden might actually win this thing.
Yeah.
Let's be real. It's a legitimate chance, and that scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, and the policy thing, what really I think hurt was as far as having a debate where they actually got into policy. Usually that's the second debate. And with COVID and Trump contracting it and everything, and then them wanting to do the virtual, and Trump's like, no, because I don't trust you to do the virtual. That, I think, is what hurt when it came to them getting into more deep into policy. Everybody's looking at this as the second debate. The second debate was really when they did those 2 town halls, because that was when the second debate was supposed to happen. And that, I think, didn't help matters either, with them never really getting into their policy debate and everything, because that's usually the one where you really dig in deeper into the policies, the second debate. The first debates are kind of like an introductory thing, and then the second you get into policy, and then the third is where you just try to get your base stirred to where they go out and vote on election day.
That's right. Jordan out there says it's by design. Getting a policy would take too much time. No, I generally, in generalities, I agree with that. But there were 2 or 3 questions that were very, very specific policy questions that she asked both of them tonight. Specific policy questions. Nothing. And I said, you know what? If that's going to be the case, then don't ask the questions anymore. Let's just let them go at it. Let's literally put them in a boxing ring, put them gloves on, and say, let's fight this out, because we're not going to get any positive information from either one of them. At this point, just let them go at it. If you're going to ask specific questions, then I mute them until they actually want to answer specifics.
Yeah, and you brought up about how the first part was about China and Russia. Did you catch Biden's flub on that one when they were
He had a couple different
talking about the South China Sea, and he's trying to run down Trump for increasing the B-1 and the B-52 flights over the South China Sea. He said, I did that. He didn't say Trump did that. He said, I increased the flights of the B-52s and B-1s. I thought that was funny. I got a laugh out of that one.
He had a couple in there tonight that, I don't know how many times he threw Obama under the bus. He liked to say we until it was something that went badly. Then he basically was saying that was Obama, or we had Republican Congress. But I guarantee you, well, I don't know. Okay, I'll guarantee this. If former President Obama was watching tonight, he was going, what the hell? I guarantee he had a go, what the hell moments.
Yeah. And then on the crime bill, he said that during the Obama administration, we were trying to change it. We were trying to change it. I've been trying to change it since we passed it. I'm like, no, Joe, you ran until now, every time you ran for office, on the fact that you're the one that wrote the crime bill. He was every single time.
That's what he tells everybody. It was his bill.
Yeah.
It was his bill.
Isn't he good at flip-flopping? Hello, everybody.
No, you're thinking John Kerry.
Honestly, I've been trying to listen to you guys, and I watched the show, and I can tell you this, man, that the debate started out well coordinated, and I kind of liked the platform, and it started going off the rails, but it was like the train going a little too fast, but didn't go off the rails kind of thing. And I honestly, the moderator, I was thinking more, I think Chris Wallace was worse than her. I really do. And I don't know. And of course the issues, I watched Joe talk, and it's like, after so long, he started slurring, and he just started, I wouldn't say babbling, because he was kind of putting words together, but as they came together, they really weren't making sense. And, whenever he was challenged, he would come up with something. And how many times did we hear him say, come on, or come on? We didn't hear him say, come on, man, but we heard him say, come on, at least 3 times tonight. So I'm like, the facts are out there. When the people can see it. And, it just seems to me the Democrats are good at using media to distract people. And, this whole coronavirus, let's blame Trump. It's all Trump's fault, blah, blah, blah. And they will spin it any way they can. And for Biden, the one of the last things he said is, I am for the people, and I don't care about red states, and I'm like, well, I'm going to call BS, because you care about the people that are voting for you to keep you in office making money, Joe. And he has been a career politician for how long? So all his time, everything that I'm like, wow, I couldn't believe he kept a coherent thing up until about halfway. And when the heat started coming on, that's when he started, I heard him slur, and I'm like,
no, he wasn't just slurring. He was completely and totally mispronouncing words.
Yes, and stumbling. And I was like, there we go. And look, if you're gonna elect an American president, they can't do that after a heated debate or a tense topic or something just hit the fan moment in America, and not be able to comprehend it for more than about 4 or 5 minutes. Really? So, I put in the comments tonight, I says, oh, wow, Joe's doing pretty good. I wonder what they juiced him with tonight. I'll give it back to you guys, man.
All right. So Patriot wants to talk about Biden's gun policies. That's pretty funny, Travis. Yeah. I won't say what that says. Trey was just sending funny to text.
Just fired 2 blasts.
I'm sorry?
I said just fired 2 blasts from the double barrel shotgun, right? Gun policies. Joe. Oh my gosh.
Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. So we're on Biden's website. So we can sit there and say, this is not something that I'm coming up with. I'm not putting words into anyone's mouth. We're literally getting it from the horse's ass's mouth. Biden Harris, JoeBiden.com, gun safety. Biden knows gun violence and public health epidemic. Almost 40,000 people die as a result of firearm injuries every year in the U.S., and many more are wounded. Some of these deaths and injuries are a result of mass shootings that make national headlines. That is actually true. Some of those deaths are from mass shootings. I mean, a mass shooting is 4 or more. So nothing wrong with that statement. It's a little misleading, but it's not factually incorrect. Others are the result of daily acts of gun violence or suicides that may not make national headlines, but are just as devastating to the families and communities left behind. Okay, I'm going to touch that one. Biden has taken on the NRA on the national stage and won twice. In 1993, he shepherded through Congress the Brady Handgun Violence Protection Act, which established a background check system that has since kept more than 3 million firearms out of dangerous hands. In 1994, Biden, along with Senator Dianne Feinstein, secured the passage of a 10-year ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. As president, Joe Biden will defeat the NRA again. Is the NRA still doing much? So, I don't know. Let's go down. Biden also knows how to make progress on reducing gun violence using executive action. After the tragedy at Sandy Hook, President Obama tasked Vice President Biden with developing both legislative proposals and executive actions, 27 to be exact. I believe it was 27 executive actions. As a result of this effort, they administered took more than two dozen actions, including narrowing the so-called gun show loophole, increasing the number of records in the background check system, and expanding funding for mental health services. So he's taking credit for increasing the number of records in the background check system. Hey, Rich, do you know there are records being kept in the background check system?
I would never know.
It's within our grasp to end the gun violence epidemic and respect the Second Amendment, which is limited. So he's saying right there, the Second Amendment is limited. Is that what he's saying? Am I reading that right?
Not to me, but and honestly, the NFA is.
No, hold on.
Yeah.
Am I reading that right? Or I'm misunderstanding what he's saying?
No, you read exactly what it says right there.
Okay. I just want to make sure. As president, Biden will pursue constitutional common sense gun safety policies. All right, here we go. Here are the policies. Hold gun manufacturers accountable. In 2005, then Senator Biden voted against the Protection of Law, Commerce, and Arms Act. So here's the thing. We all know this one. So I would have no problem with him doing this if at the exact same time he's going to hold car manufacturers, baseball bat manufacturers. I want him to be able to sue Easton. I want him to be able to sue any axe making company, any screwdriver company, because a screwdriver is just as deadly as anything else. I want to be able to
chainsaw companies. Come on, chainsaws.
I want to be able to, but I want to, more than anything else, I want to have, if you're going to do this, I want the people to be able to sue a car manufacturer for a drunk driver killing someone. That's what I want.
I've been saying that for years. You cannot blame a machine or a tool for an act that someone did. That's as simple as it is.
All I'm saying is if you are going to blame one, you got to blame them all.
Exactly.
I'm all for equal opportunity here.
Yep.
If you're going to do this, I'm cool with that. But I want you to be able. I want to be able to sue anybody that gets me hurt. If I pull a Band-Aid off that pull the hair out and it hurts, I want to be able to sue Band-Aid for that.
Hey, when your kid sticks a fork in the receptacle and gets shocked, can you sue the power company or the receptacle company?
I would say you could sue the fork company.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Or whatever Oh.
Go ahead, Rich.
The thing about that, the court, you've already had federal courts that stated people in
Exactly.
Connecticut could sue over Sandy Hook. That's one of the reasons why Remington went into bankruptcy and was broken up.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. I'm missing out on some of the comments. I'm sorry because I'm reading on a different page. Anybody else want to join the panel? There's the link.
I was going to say earlier, Trey, the whole NFA. To me, it's what are they saying? Sensible or common sense gun laws? And no, to me, the common sense gun law is everybody has the right to keep and bear arms. Destructive device. Well, now wait a minute. Let me finish. Like you were saying, a destructive device. Well, hell, that's a baseball bat or a golf club or a tire iron or anything that you can destroy anybody with as a destructive device. So how far do we push this common sense gun law crap?
We're ready to find out. That's what I was saying. We're getting ready to literally look at his policies here. So let's take a look at his policies. Hold gun manufacturers accountable. The second one is getting weapons of war off the streets. The ban on assault weapons and high capacity magazines that they had for 10 years. Ban the manufacture of sale of assault weapons with high capacity magazines. Regulate possession of existing assault weapons under the NFA. So basically what he's saying is currently the NFA requires individuals possessing machine guns, silencers, and short-barreled rifles to undergo a background check and to register those weapons with the Bureau of basically ATF. Due to these requirements, such weapons are rarely used in crimes, as President Biden will pursue legislation to regulate possession of existing assault weapons under the NFA. So basically what he's saying is every AR that you have right now, you're going to have to end up paying a tax stamp. But then he comes back and he says, we're going to buy back the assault weapons and high capacity magazines already in our communities.
How do you buy back something that was never yours? How do you buy back something that was never yours? Go ahead.
Well, I'm glad you're giving me permission to talk on my own channel.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Biden will also institute a program to buy back weapons of war currently on our streets. But I thought he just said that they're going to make you do a tax stamp. So they're going to make you spend $200 for a tax stamp, and then they're going to do a buyback. So
how are they going to know who has them? You register it, get the tax stamp, then they know who has it, so they can do the next one where they come and get them.
Right. That's right. It's all smoke and mirrors, and the smoke is going away. So without basically saying it, he's saying, and he basically says it unless you don't understand the words, but he's going to put AR-15s or AKs into the NFA, which is then going to be a regulated item and it's going to be registered. Why don't you just come out and say you want a gun registry? Or maybe he will. I don't know. Let's find out.
Well, because this way they're not here real quick. Doing it this way, they're not paying for the registry. You're paying for the registry.
Boom, $200 right there. There you go. That's it. He's going to make us pay for our own registry. In order to reduce the stockpiling of firearms, Biden supports legislation restricting the number of firearms an individual may purchase per month to one. One per month. I've broken that law several times in the last couple of years. Keep guns out of dangerous hands. So once again, the NICS system is going to be a strong role into the Biden campaign. The NICS system is one of the best tools we have to prevent gun violence, but it's only effective when it's used. Biden will enact universal background check legislation and close other loopholes that allow people who would be prohibited from purchasing firearms from making those purchases. Specifically, require background checks for all gun sales. They're going to have cameras everywhere. You're going to have cameras in my own home. If I want to sell a gun to someone in my own home, you're going to be able to go into my home with cameras and watch that.
Well, they're going to take away private sales. You're not going to be able to sell from one person.
How would he know? If someone comes into my house and I sell them a gun in my own house, how are they going to know it's a private sale? Once again, there it is. There it is. There it is. It all comes down to this is all saying he wants a gun registry. He wants a gun registry.
I was just going to say, Rich, you said it earlier, Nick's, it's a backdoor gun registry. And what we're all talking about is him wanting all firearms transactions to go through a dealer, 4473, Nick's check. It doesn't matter. You could sell it, but now we can, buy it through 4473, sell it to somebody, and we don't have that. But no, you can't do that. It's a backdoor gun registration, straight up. So
Honcho says that 99% of all firearms are registered already. If you fill out a 4473, that information is provided to you anytime they want it. This is true. Technically, it's on file, and they can request the local gun shops or the FFL's papers at any time. Do you know how many times that most gun shops ever get asked to do an audit or to see their paperwork? I've got a guy that's been on a local gun shop here for several decades and has never been asked for them. Never been asked for them. Even during an audit, all they're looking for, they're not taking it with them. They're not making copies. From what he says, all they're doing is to make sure that they're filled out properly. That's all it is.
Yeah. The one exception is if they have a firearm and have no idea who owns it, they'll go check their local FFL
if there is,
find out who owned it because of the crime that was committed.
If it was used in a felony crime,
right?
A federal crime.
In most states, they still require a warrant for it as well.
That is correct. So I understand what you're saying, Honcho. I'm not defending the 4473. I'm on record saying the 4473s are worthless. Yeah. I understand what you're saying about the 4473, but let's not act like the ATF is sitting out there sending agents to every FFL across the country saying, all right, secretly, I want you to take all of these and we're going to build a database. Let's not put that tinfoil hat on. Okay. Let's just not. All right. So let's go down here. Reinstate the Obama. So he says the Obama-Biden policy, but he was separating himself from Obama all night tonight. Was he not?
Oh, he was, especially towards the end.
I heard the same. Yes, I did.
So here's the thing. Here it is right here. Here comes the nasty, nasty stepmom right here. Red flag laws. There will be, I guarantee you, there will be a national red flag law, at least presented. Whether or not it gets passed or not, that will be one of the first things that he does will be a national red flag law. Once again, everyone knows how I feel about this, but the fact that you're trying to legislate what is in someone's mind is dangerously flirting. Oh, Poncho's on here. Flirting with privacy. If nothing else, the First Amendment is basically being thrown out the window. You have never mind due process. Never mind, it actually is going to go about 7 different amendments that are going to be hurt. But the very first one is the First Amendment. Right off the bat, you're saying the First Amendment, throw it out the window. The First Amendment, we all like to talk about the Second Amendment. Okay, we all love and respect the Second Amendment. I would imagine the vast majority of people in this room would. But let's not take the fact that the First Amendment is the cornerstone of our country. And in one fell swoop, with one red flag law, national red flag law, not just the first, there's about 7 of them, but they're going to take the First Amendment and basically throw it down the drain, especially the parts of the First Amendment they don't like. They want to keep the other parts, There'll be certain parts of the first and second amendment they're just going to, we're going to throw those away. We're going to rewrite how we want the first and second amendment to look like. That's dangerous, man. I'm just telling you, that's very, very. What's up, Honcho? Everything good?
Yeah, everything's good, man. I was just watching, like everybody else, watching the debate and taking it all in. Well,
generalities here. Generalities. What do you think?
I think that it was not a debate. I think that it was squabbles between two angry old men that are more concerned with how they're perceived in the media than actually doing anything for the country. And that's the sad part of it. I don't necessarily think that they're going to provide any other substance, because if they do, they have to back it up. Politicians and people in power know this, have been trained to this, and Trump's one of the few, because he's not a career politician, but he is a career businessman who's very savvy.
And he thinks he is.
Well, politics is nothing more than knowing what you're carrying and when to use it. That's really what politics is. If you know what your weapons are, you know how to use them, you know when to talk, you know when to shoot. You just got to make the decision. So he's just been out of the system. I like the fact that he can make those kinds of decisions and is not afraid to say, look, you know what? You might be full of crap. We need to check some more things out. But at the same time, he is his own worst enemy. He could do better. They both could do better. I've seen it from behind the veil. I've seen it from different perspectives. I've seen different candidates, both sides. What you see in front of the camera is not what you see when the camera is turned off. That's another unfortunate truth, that there are too many people that believe in the lie the media has given you, the concept that, and if anybody who's old enough like me growing up, I never watched any debates growing up where the two presidential candidates argued over which states supported them. They never mentioned it. It was never a concern. It was always, this is the platform that I'm on. This is what I believe in. This is what's right for the country based on what I think is right for myself, for the country. And then the other side argued, well, I don't agree with you, and here's why.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because you're different than me, or you think differently than me, or we should be different. There was no need to pull us apart because we were America. We were a country. And the media and everyone else is so happy that we aren't together and that we are at odds, that we have no reason to agree with each other because all we know is what we're seeing. Right. And the vast majority of people out there, common everyday working people like us, try to decide what's going to happen based on whose insanity is greater, whose media presence is greater, instead of thinking about what the real issues are and what's best for everyone. And that's the sad, honest truth.
Yep.
I'd like to say that they're both bad and we shouldn't vote for either one, but we don't really have that choice. We have to take sides, and we have to move forward and hope that the next group that comes after this group is going to have someone with substance in it.
You know, it's interesting because there was, I don't remember where I think it might have been a podcast I was listening to. I don't remember, in the last couple of days, talking about third parties. And here's the problem. The initial discussion was, should we allow several other presidential candidates from the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh parties out there to the debates? And I say yes, I think we should, as long as they're polling outside of, I would say 3 or 4, I'd say maybe, let's say 5%. Because if you're polling at 5%, okay, if you're polling at 1% or 2% or less, chances of you affecting an election are slim. Okay, let's be honest. Okay, if you're polling at 5%, that can affect an election. And if you have the ability to affect an election because of your polling numbers, then yeah, I think they should be heard. None of the third party candidates, including Jo Jorgensen, are. I think she's polling last I checked was at 4%. So here's the thing: 4%, as it is right now, could affect an election. Do I think that we should have her on the stage? I wouldn't have mind, but I think that people are also looking at parties way too much. I've said this before. Trump is not a conservative. He is a moderate at best. At best, he's a moderate. I think fiscally he's conservative, and I think that's about where his conservatism stops. Okay. I'll say this. Jurgensen is, from what I've read on her website, aside from Second Amendment issues, she's pretty liberal. She's pretty liberal. People are saying if you vote for Jurgensen, you're taking a vote away from Trump. I don't necessarily think that's true. I don't. I think that some of those voters would probably vote for Biden. Maybe there's more moderate liberals out there. Might be, But here's the thing. Does a person who's polling at 4%, I'm going to start with Rich on this one. Does a person with 4% of the vote, two questions. Can she affect the election this year? And should she have had a seat at the debate?
Could she affect the election?
Let's say she's polling at 4% and her numbers stayed that 4%. Does that affect the election?
4% has been enough in the past to affect elections. She could very well end up affecting the election. Which way, whether she's going to draw Biden voters or Trump voters, that flip a coin, right? You could have people voting 2A, who 2A is their only thing that they vote based on. She could draw some of them. But like you said, she's liberal on a bunch of other ideas. And if they think Biden's too far left, she may prove to be a viable candidate for them. So you could end up with a 50-50 toss-up on that one, which in that case, she affects nothing. If she draws 50% of her 4% from Trump and then the other 50% from Biden, it's a wash, right? So
You think she should have had a seat at the table tonight?
Should she have had a seat at the table? I don't know if that would have helped her campaign any. To be honest, if you're only polling at 4%, I don't think you should be there. 10%.
I was going to ask you. So you're saying, I was going to say, what is a good honcho? A&A jump in here, and I want to let you, Rich, you start first since you brought it up. But I was going to say, what is a kind of a percentage that should be a minimum? If you're not at this level, then you're not going to be involved in the debate. You think it's 10%?
Yeah, somewhere around 10% would be.
I would agree with that.
Point.
I was going to say 4% is not much.
You take 4%, give or take, out of the Bush and Gore election. What do you think happens there, bud? You take 4% that happened in 2016 with Clinton and Trump.
Yeah. Yep.
4% is a big number, bro.
Yeah. 4% in Florida.
4% outside the margin of error of the vote. The margin of error is 3% in the vote.
4% in Florida, and we did not have
4 wins.
Was that the hanging Chad era?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Al Gore.
I got a friend of mine named Chad. Every time I hear hanging Chad, I'm like, no, I don't want to see Chad hang. Anyway,
5 to 7%, you're on the ballot.
Yeah.
If you're not pulling more than 15%, you're not in the debates. You're not
Okay.
You're not 1/3, 1/4 of the total. Then you really are pulling from one side or the other, or you're dividing the two. But you really haven't earned the right to be on there to argue your point. But you definitely made your case to be in the race at 5.
I agree with that. I could go with that. And I think it might be 10% might be, something that you're I don't know. I do like the idea about 5% you're on the ballot. I don't know. I part of me says I'd love to see you at 20%, but I don't know if they're outside of Perot. I don't think there's ever been a third party that's actually gotten 10%.
Yes, there was. There was one. That was Teddy Roosevelt when he ran on the Bull Moose Party. He split the vote.
Okay, the Bull Moose. Okay.
With Taft, they both got basically 25%, and they gave
in the last 90 years. Actually, that was almost 100 years ago with Teddy. You said Teddy, right? Yeah, the Bull Moose.
Yeah, that was over 100 years ago.
Yeah, it was 100 years ago. So, aside from the Bull Moose Party, I don't think a third party candidate has ever gotten more than 10% except for Perot.
I'll say this: Ross Perot, You know, I'm going to be 54 on Halloween, so I've been alive long enough and seen this. And Ross Perot said something about NAFTA about the giant sucking sound. He was right. Patriot in the Dark just says, "Do you really risk losing the Constitution for voting for a third party?" And this is the thing, Trey.
Yeah.
Trey, you said it earlier. How long have we been voting for the less of two evils? That's the problem.
Been voting for the less of two evils probably
all our lives.
Since
And it's sad.
Since 1794.
Yeah. So
since special interests and lobbies have been involved directly in how our governments are formed and how they make decisions, and the fact that it's based on commerce and money versus the will of the people.
And I'll say this is social media today in the past 10 years. You know, like I said, I'm old guy, but you know, smartphones came in, 2000s, and social media is instant now. The way I grew up, it was not like that. Now it's so instant, and things are put out, and what do you believe? Oh, well, this media put it out, or that media, and eventually we get to the truth, but there's so much hype that make people think one way or the other, and you really should just not even just take it in as, yep, it's hype. It's hype. I'll research it myself. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the problem that you have is I want to, just for shits and giggles, I want to take your last statement and dissect it a little bit. And I say, I think you're wrong because I don't think we ever do find the truth. What we do is we find different versions of the truth. Okay. You go to one media outlet, it's their version of the truth. You go to another media outlet, you go to their version of truth. When it comes to politics, you never get the truth. That's just the reality of it. I hate to say it.
You're absolutely right. And you made a great point because, look at how much history is being rewritten. Depends on where you go, right?
Yeah. Patriot. Let's go back to Patriot's question that I had up on the board. Do you really risk losing the Constitution voting for a third party? Yes, I truly believe right now. I'm a constitutionalist. The problem that you're going to have is no matter what party you're going to vote for, okay? If you're voting for a third party, you're taking a vote away from a candidate that's actually going to win as of right now. I'm not saying that's never going to change. I'm saying right now, you vote for a libertarian or whatever, the Tea Party, the Green Party, whatever party that you're going to vote for, right in a presidential race. Let's just say presidential race, because I think that voting third party, local and state level, 100% do it. That can actually work. Hold on, being loud out there. Anyways, that can actually work. Voting local third party, I think that's solid. I'm all for that. On the national level, especially for president, the issue that I have with that is, as of right now, there is no this election. There is no way in hell that a third party candidate wins this. So technically, unless it works out like Rich was saying, where it's 4% of this is half of it's gonna come here and half it's gonna go from there. I think the problem you're going to have is taking a vote away from someone who could legitimately win, because this election, and it might not necessarily be just this election, I think from now on, but this election, because of all the justice warriors out there and the social problems that we're having, economical problems that we had early in the year, everything that's going on, I truly do believe that there is a chance that the Constitution looks different 4 years from now. I truly do believe that. I think that you can just see right in last week, the Senate confirmation hearings for Judge Amy Coney Barrett. People are wanting to reinterpret and redefine the Constitution. You see it in their questioning. They want to reinterpret what we cannot allow someone, a party, to get in position to reinterpret the Constitution. Now you're talking to a constitutionalist, so when you start bringing up Constitution, I'm into that. You start talking about other issues, we can have that discussion, but you start talking about reinterpreting the Constitution, that's some scary shit. You're talking about reinterpreting and changing the framework, the fundamental framework of who we are as a country.
Yeah, you brought up the confirmation hearings, Earl. Did you see the vote earlier today?
Oh,
Not
yeah.
a single one of the
Not a
Democrats.
single one showed up. Yeah, not one.
So if they didn't show up, do they get vote?
No.
No, but this was just the committee vote. They knew that she was going to get through.
Yeah.
They were just making a political statement that we're boycotting.
Kind of like Pelosi with the pen signing of the impeach, and it didn't go through, and nobody knew it. Everybody knew it
On
wasn't.
the Republican side, it went through.
It
was
theatrics.
On the House of Representatives side, he was impeached. It was
impeachment and removal
changed over the Senate.
Yeah, and so was Clinton. So but
that's people don't understand how the impeachment process works. Impeachment and removal are two separate parts.
That's correct.
Oh, I understand.
The way you look at it, and this might be something more people will understand. Impeachment is your grand jury proceeding. The trial is in the Senate. You're getting an indictment in the impeachment process in the House that then gets tried in the Senate.
You're being charged, now you're being tried. Yeah. And do you remember the 4473? This is a little off track, but 4473, you ever been charged with domestic violence? Well, they had to change that because people were charged and never convicted because they were, smacking the wife that was hitting them with a frying pan kind of anyway off. But anyway, yes, charged and convicted are two different things there, Nancy.
There you have it. 7 says he's probably not going to live long to see it, but voting third party might be the only way to get rid of a flawed two-party system. Okay, so let's talk about the two-party system. The two-party system was never like what the framework was supposed to be. It was supposed to have candidates and these great debates and all that. But why is a multi, I want to say multi, because I don't think it's supposed to be a two-party, but why is a multi-party system so important? Because you have to understand where we were coming from. We were coming from a monarchy. We were coming from a king who ruled not only the land, but ruled the church, ruled everything. Remember the Church of England. If you were part of the English colony and English empire, you had to be a member of the Church of England or you died. So we were coming from a monarchy. So one absolute power, and it was a family. It wasn't even a voted thing. Is you happened to be born into this family, you had absolute power. So understand where we were coming from. That's why a multi-party system is so important. We may not like the candidates that we're getting, but you know how you change that? You demand there's got to be more better candidates. People need to understand that as long as Republican and Democratic Party are running things with the money, you're right. A third party will never be viable. But it may be the only way. You're right. It may be the only way to get part of a two-party system. But here's the thing. The DNC and the RNC will never let that happen unless there is a mass exodus from one of those parties and they start their own party.
Yeah, you would have to have something that happened in the mid-1800s before the Republican Party was formed and the Whig Party started falling apart and a bunch of them went and started the Republican Party. That was the last time you had a third party viably rise above another party, and it mostly started at the local level. It wasn't until Lincoln ran that you finally got a Republican on the national ticket that was a viable candidate.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. I'm sorry to say it, I don't see how you think it's far past being over. We will never be a true constitutional republic again. Not enough patriots left, all about what affects me, not thee. I don't see how you think it's far past being over. I don't know what did I miss something? It's far past, what's far past being over? I have no problem addressing this, but I have no idea what you're talking about.
I think he thinks the country's already at its end. That's the way I'm
what's
reading.
that?
I think he thinks that the country's already at its end, that we've gone over the brink, that you can never go back.
Hell no.
Yeah,
hell no.
I agree with that.
No, there is no way. Bards, we're only 250 years old? As a country? You know what I'm saying? Their civilizations have been there for thousands of years, and they're still trying to figure this shit out.
Hey, Trey,
So,
250 years old, and look how strong we are. Seriously, look at our infrastructure, our military, 250 years old. What did?
Well,
did
I agree, but
Yeah.
I'm talking politically. We're so young. We're still in the infancy ages of really where we're going to be as a political nation. The unfortunate thing is we're already a beacon for freedom. The problem with that is we're a beacon of freedom throughout the world, but we don't even know what the hell freedom truly is, you know? So, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
The other problem I see, Trey, is we're a beacon of freedom, and there's a lot of countries that aren't about freedom that really don't like us and really hate it when their people want to come to America. You know what I'm saying?
Why do they hate us?
Because we're about freedom and they're not.
Has nothing to do with that.
Just a thought, brother.
No, it's I obviously has something to do with that. Ultimately, they look at us as rich snobs that are extremely, how do I put this, spoiled brats.
Gosh, I'm waiting for my white privilege on being a rich, spoiled brat snob. I got to go to work in the morning.
You understand how rich you are in comparison to most of the world out there?
Yes, I know.
Okay.
But this is America. So, I understand that. But they, turn their nose down at us for a society and a economic thing that worked. And okay, whatever.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying, but the reason why they hate us is we're successful.
That's what I was. Dude, we just agreed because yes, they hate us because we're successful.
But here's the thing: it's not because that we're successful; it's because we throw it in their faces a lot, and we do. Let's be honest, we do. That's just the way we are. We're just like the young contender that wants to go into the bullfight or the boxing ring and knock out the champion to prove that he belongs there. We've been doing that since we were born. We knocked out the champion when we should have been not even been in the fight. The Revolutionary War, we should have never won that war. Never. Let's be honest about it. So we've been fighting those odds from day one of our existence. So of course we're going to be arrogant. We were David against Goliath in real world shit in the 1700s.
Twice. We should never win the War of 1812 either.
Yeah, I was just going to say, before the turn of the century, yes.
Yeah, the War of 1812. You know why we won the War of 1812? Because the British were stupid and were fighting a war in Europe and the United States at the same time.
And I believe that in this northern Ohio, Lake Erie, War 1812 was Oliver Hazard Perry, never give up the ship, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's funny because it's all around you. The wars that happened, if you look back, there's a lot of history there. Anyway, go ahead. I'm getting off topic.
I was reading this and I understand what he's saying. We're only as free as we fight to be. And only 15 to 20% of this. I don't even, honest to God, I think 15 to 20% is actually, if you talk about constitutionalists, I think there are people that respect the Constitution, but they're not constitutionalists. I would like to think that everyone respects the Constitution. Okay. But yeah, I see what you're saying, but I don't even think it's 15 to 20% of us that are left that are still constitutionalists. I think it's half that. I think it's probably around 8% that truly care about what the original writings of the Constitution mean. I may be wrong about that. I mean, I don't know. Honcho, Rich, what do you got?
I think they
People
don't.
that truly love constitutional readings, I don't think it's 10%. I don't think it's close to 10%.
Most people don't know what the Constitution even says.
I would say that most people in our generation are the last. We're going to be the last ones that truly understand what that means. And I don't mean that no one else understands it. I just mean the percentage is higher. I grew up, my father was in the Air Force, uncles, whatever, served in different branches. And I didn't have any inclination about military service or anything else. That wasn't on my radar. Went to college, graduated, wasn't going anywhere, decided there's an opportunity that I can get a job skill, but to get it, I had to join. And that's why I joined. Just like you said, I wasn't gung ho for I'm going to be all Army all the time, but I joined, and I suddenly, my purpose was clear when I took the oath. The day I took the oath, I won't say that it changed my life. It put that into perspective.
Absolutely.
And then every day that I went to work and I did my job, I had the pride myself that, hey, I'm doing something that's helping my country, myself, my family, and so on. And I'll always look back at that time, but that's what really focused my attention on our country, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Even though I learned about all that in school, I never really grasped that concept.
Correct.
To where I could.
They don't really spend a lot of time on the Bill of Rights.
No, they don't. And now it's pretty much glossed over. Yeah, you've got a Bill of Rights. Here's the ones you need to be concerned with for your test. Let's move on.
And those are the ones that they consider to be important.
Oh yeah, exactly. Whoever is right, the federal government, the people who are writing the students' curriculum. And that's why, again, as a parent, I take it upon myself to teach my sons more than just what they learn in school. And it's not about dissenting or doing whatever. It's about being educated and being able to discover things for yourselves. Think for yourself, be responsible, be moral, be, all the things you need to be. But we're losing that. We're losing those things from families. We're losing them in schools. And in generations to come, it'll be, the Constitution's dumb. It's just some piece of paper somebody wrote back when they had wigs on. They didn't understand the fact that it took that kind of thinking of people who spent their entire lives under the oppression of another ruler to figure out we have to make something greater than ourselves. We have to think into times we can't imagine and try and set something down that gives everybody the ability to be free, defend themselves, and to keep this from happening again.
Dude, I'd love to jump in. I just wanted to say everything you just said, spot on. The high school that I graduated from in 1985, way up high, written in sandstone that nobody really ever saw because it was up above the tree line, says knowledge comes, but wisdom lingers. And looking at everything that's going on, if you haven't been paying attention to everything that's been going on and putting two and two together, you haven't been paying attention. Voting a third party, I don't know. The less of two evils, yeah, I'd like to not to, but what do you do? But just coming at you from the point of live life long enough, you better pay attention to all the political games and all the silly crap that's going on and know how to just kind of know what's kind of true or not true, or pay attention. Just pay attention. Back to you guys. Sorry.
Yeah, I want to go back to what my point on it with people not knowing the Constitution. I can think of one YouTuber, and you'll probably know exactly who I'm talking about, Ghost, when I say what I'm going to say, who insists that Abraham Lincoln was one of the worst presidents ever because he violated the Constitution during the Civil War when when habeas corpus was suspended.
Habeas corpus was, yep.
Read Article 2 of the Constitution. There is a clear section in there and paragraph which explains exactly under what circumstances Habeas corpus can be suspended, and the Civil War qualifies for that.
Correct. Here's the problem that I have with politics right now is they look at one of two things going to happen. Okay. Depending on what side you're on. One of two things going to happen. You have one side that's going to look at every single word of an article in the Constitution, and they're going to dissect every single word and figure out what it means in today's words. Okay. And for an example, the Second Amendment, they use the word militia. Well, the word militia today means something different than it did in 1791 when this was ratified. The
So
word
did well-regulated.
Hold on, God bless, dude.
I'm sorry.
In 1791, when the Constitution was ratified, the word militia means citizenship. Okay, so the Second Amendment was written saying the militia, the citizens. So they look at it now and they say the militia. Oh, these are the crazy 3%ers that are out there. And no offense, Rich, but out in there in the hills of West Virginia, they're trying over. No, the word militia means something different today than it does back then. So you can't change the narrative of what it's trying to say to fit your agenda. So you have that side. The second side of it is they don't even look at any of the words. They just sit there and say the entire Second Amendment is outdated because it was written 250 years ago. We don't need to have weapons to protect ourselves from the government. We're going to protect you. The government, the military is going to protect you. No, fools. That's exactly what the framework's supposed to be there is we don't have to rely on the military to protect us in our own country. That's why the Army, the Navy, Air Force, Marines are not supposed to be attacking or fighting unless it's a foreign country on our own soil. Okay, why we have bases all over the country to protect us from that, but they're not fighting. They're not out there. The state governor cannot call in the Marine Corps to confiscate guns in their state. They can't do that. Okay, so people understand that it's one or the other. Either they're looking at every single word and dissecting it, or they're glossing over the entire article or amendment of the Bill of Rights. The problem is neither one of them care to actually read the fucking bill. They don't care what it was originally intended to be, and that's the problem. It's okay, bro. It's okay, A&A, but it's what it is. But here's the problem. If you're not going to care or even attempt to try to care about what our forefathers intended for this country, then you shouldn't be running for office. Because Joe Biden's sitting there saying that he's going to be the American president, but yet he has no respect for what America was built on, obviously. You go look at his website, and you're going to see everything that he wants to do is going to rewrite and reinterpret the Constitution of the United States. That's a scary thought. So the guy that claims to be the American president has no idea, nor does he give one shit about what the American life and the American framework truly is. And I'm not sitting there saying don't vote for Biden. You vote for whoever you want to. There was a question that was asked earlier, and it was a video that Johnny put out. I didn't even watch it, but I saw the title. It says, "Can two-way people vote Democrat?" Yeah, they can. Okay, if you're not a single issue voter, you can vote for whatever the hell you want. If the 2A is just a part of your voting scale, and it depends on where on that scale the 2A is, yes, 2A people can vote Democrat. Should they? Probably not. But can they? Yeah, they can. Not everyone's a single issue voter. I'm not a single issue voter. Okay, I'm not. If that upsets people out there, sorry, I'm not a single issue voter. Luckily, most of my issues line up with people that are pro 2A, but I'm not a single issue voter. I don't make decisions on voting because of the Second Amendment. I don't make it on because of healthcare. I don't make it because of the economy. I don't make it because I have several issues that are important to me. Some of those are more liberal than conservative. Okay. But that doesn't mean I'm voting because blah, 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 blah. Luckily, most of the issues that I seem to care about in my life line up with a conservative base. Okay. But the answer is yes. If you're 2A, you can still vote Democrat, and that's what it is. I'm not going to shame you. Go ahead.
The discussions you and I have had, I'm pretty sure you can figure out where I line up politically.
Sure.
But I'm
Absolutely.
not a single issue voter. I mean, I don't look at just what their policy is.
And there's nothing wrong with being a single issue voter, but I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them.
I mean, there's lots of different issues that I look at. I look at abortion, their abortion policy, immigration policy, firearms policy. I weigh all that kind of stuff into it. I don't just look at one thing and say, "Yep, that's who I'm voting for."
Yeah.
I'll just say this: I have a hard time voting for somebody that is like Joe Biden, that's come out and said they're gonna end this and they're gonna and what's his name? Not Buttigieg, the other guy that liked to stand on tables. We're gonna make him our gun laws are. I'm like,
Beto.
yeah, okay,
Beto?
yeah, Beto O'Rourke, yeah, and I'm thinking, okay, Joe, you just came out and threw down probably the worst card you could toward not FUDs, but actual 2A supporter gun owners. You know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah, you're right. You're right. You did. But let's be honest. How many 2A supporters are going to be voting for Biden anyways? Honestly.
yeah. Okay.
So what does he have to lose? I mean, he is not going for the 2A vote. He knows he's literally anti-2A.
Oh yeah, yep.
Okay. So if you're going to be anti-2A, then let's just go as hardcore as we can and say Beto's going to be our guy. So that he's not recruiting the 2A vote. The problem that he has is that every single issue that he's trying to put together is something that didn't work when he was with Obama, or it's going to be something that is rewriting the framework of our country. And like I said, I'm not saying don't vote for Biden. I could care less who you vote for. I just want you to vote. But if you're going to sit there and say that it's okay for someone to sit there and not have a clue what the Constitution says, nor does he care what it says. This is where I have a problem with him. Okay. Socially, I'm pretty liberal. Okay. I don't care who you marry. I have no problems no problem. If you're happy and you're a productive citizen in this world, marry who you want. I could give a damn if you're gay or not. It makes no difference. It's not my place to judge you. Do what you got to do. Fiscally, I'm very conservative. But the biggest side of me is I don't care about those issues if you care about the Constitution. This dude does not give a shit about the Constitution. He truly doesn't give a shit about the Constitution. He's going to rewrite and reinterpret the Constitution. And I'm not saying that Trump's better, but Trump's going to try to rewrite less of it. Does that make sense to you? I mean, that's what's sad. We are at the lesser of two evils right now.
Yeah, Trump.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on. Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
Trump isn't going to up and reenact policies under Obama that are going to bankrupt states under his environmental policy. If you look at West Virginia when Obama was in office, our economy started to tank because of all their measures that they were doing against the coal industry. Trump started correcting that when he got in office, and Biden wants to go right back to it again. He is going to put hundreds of thousands of people in this state at least out of work if he gets his environmental policies enacted.
Yeah. So he was talking, if y'all remember, it was there towards the end, and he was talking about, and they were talking clean energy. Okay. So Biden was talking, we're going to create thousands, tens of thousands, I think he said, of new jobs for clean energy. What he didn't tell you is that they're going to eliminate tens of thousands of jobs in the oil business. That's what their plan is. They want to eliminate tens of thousands of jobs that are oil and gas related. They're not going to tell you the dark side of the moon. They're going to tell you the moon that you see is we're going to create tens of thousands of new jobs. What's the flip side?
Government jobs.
No, they're not going to be government jobs. They won't be government. They'll be private jobs. These companies will be given incentives to use clean energy. Incentives to create these companies and all that. But the 10,000 jobs you create for the clean energy, there's 10,000 people losing their jobs in the oil and gas business.
And those clean job companies might not stick around for long. Look at Solyndra under Obama. They were supposed to go and make all these solar panels. They're going to employ all these people. And they folded within 2 years of the company founding and getting all kinds of money from the Obama administration. They did not last. And not only did you have people out of work who were working in the coal industry or the gas industry or what have you, you also then had people who were working on solar panels out of work because the company they were working for wasn't viable with what they were doing.
Yeah. You know, it's all Trump's fault. And Trey, you made a great comment that Biden just kept hitting on failed Obama things, and all he wanted to do was redo Obama things that failed, that were proved to fail. And well, if we just tweak it and make it a little better, you're not going to tweak it and make it suck from the, you know what I mean? And I seen that tonight in the debate. He's like, no, we're going to go back and we're going to do this. And you know, you said that, I didn't mean it that way. And I'm like, yeah.
Well, my problem, I'll put it to you this way. Okay. Ultimately, it comes down to this. Politics aside, okay? Politics aside, I don't care. Make Trump a Democrat. Make Biden a Republican. Just politics aside. The person, okay? I know a lot of people don't like President Trump. He's arrogant, he's brash, he's a loudmouth, he's immature at times. He's all those things. Tell me one thing that he promised 4 years ago that he hadn't really done. Can anyone tell me anything that he hasn't done?
Well, don't blame it on the COVID, because whose fault was that, right? Right. So yeah, that hit.
We're talking. Yeah. What were any of the policy platforms that President Trump ran on in 2016 that he hasn't done?
He did everything he could until this COVID shit hit, and that's the way I see it.
He still has done it. He got everything done in 3 years.
8-year assault on your Second Amendment rights is over.
Okay, I'll give you that one. I'm talking, but policy. Yeah, I'll give you that one. He has not been the most gun-friendly president, okay? But look at the economy. All he talked about was the economy. He talked about getting rid of really, 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 really bad trade and foreign aid agreements around the world.
NAFTA.
Did that. NAFTA was not even the biggest one.
Paris Accords were pretty rough.
The Paris Accords were terrible. Makes NAFTA look like nothing.
NAFTA was the start that Ross Perot said the big sucking sound. That was
here's the thing. Here's the thing. NAFTA has to happen. And NAFTA has to exist. Okay. NAFTA will always exist. Okay. But here's the thing. The reason why NAFTA, the way that he changed NAFTA, was people sit there and say, well, Trump says he was going to have the Mexico pay for the wall. He did. Mm-hmm. No, he did. They didn't write a check. He never said they were going to write a check. Did he once ever in 2016 say that Mexico is going to write a check for that wall?
No, at one point he said they're going to pay for the wall through tariffs.
That's
$2.3 billion of money saved between tariffs and aid not going to Mexico.
Yeah.
There you have it, folks. So here's the thing. So my point is this. If you're talking about taking politics aside, hey, Pep, taking politics aside, and you're voting for the two men that we saw on stage tonight, you have one who everything that was brought up, he was blaming someone else, throwing someone under the bus. Or you have someone that says you may not like what he says. Trump will own that shit. If you say something bad, I'll sit there and say, yeah, I said that. And you know what? I'll go to my grave fighting. What he'll also do is he'll sit there in front of a microphone and literally call out someone and challenge someone almost to a fight until they get his way. So I'm more willing to vote for a person that is willing to stand up, whatever convictions they have, whether I agree with them or not. I respect the fact that someone's at least willing to stand up in front of a microphone and say, this is what I believe. I'm not going to make excuses as to someone else did this. I'm not going to blame someone else for my mistakes. I'm not even come back and say it was a mistake and say, yeah, I did that. And I still think we're the best thing. I'm the least racist president ever. What? Okay, I'm not going to, Abraham Lincoln did a lot for race relations, but that dude believes it. And he's like, you know what, shit? If he believes he's the best, he's the least racist president ever, then good for him. At least he's convicted. He's got conviction in every his beliefs. Who he is who he is. He doesn't make excuses for who he is. When you get the other guy making excuses and blaming other people for things that have gone wrong. So politics aside, I don't think I could vote for Biden regardless of what the politics were. I don't trust the dude.
Yeah,
Okay, so Clover, you just came in. We've had a long time thing, but
Hi, Clover.
So
is there anything that you first of all, did you watch the debate?
I didn't watch much of it. I had it on I had your thing watch party on, but I've been busy.
Yeah, sure. So the parts that you did hear, at least in the background, was there anything you took away from the debate tonight?
It seems like he really pinned a lot of stuff on Biden for the points I listened to, and I mean
You did?
Trump did. But it was more in the immigration thing, and he was like, well, this is what your administration, y'all did when y'all were in office, which is true. Especially the immigration thing it's like, who built the cages, Joe? That was funny.
Yeah, he did, and he did put, and I don't remember. Maybe Rich Honcho, you guys can fill me in. I don't remember. I don't know if that started after Biden started blaming Obama for everything. I don't know, Clover, if you heard it, but there were several occasions.
Yeah, I heard him say something about, well, I'm not president yet. I wasn't president then. I'm not president yet.
Obama was sitting there. If he was watching it tonight, he's probably going, what in the hell is going on here?
I think that was the point where he started throwing Obama under the bus.
I don't know. I don't know. Did Trump start throwing stuff at Biden because Biden was throwing Obama, or did Biden start throwing Obama because Trump? I don't remember which one came first.
Here's the thing, though. Partisan politics runs so deep. That's a tactic that they use. Obama probably handed that to him and said, blame me if you need to. And they probably tell each other that all the time. Blame me if you need to. It's a tactic they use. Trump ain't gonna let that fly, though. Yeah. But it's like that old saying, pass the buck, or whatever. It's like you never really pin it. Oh, it's his fault. Well, no, it was this guy's fault. No, it was this guy's fault. Well,
no, but I do recall Trump telling Biden after all that started, he goes, yeah, well, when I came into office, there was this huge mess. You guys left this mess.
You left me a mess.
Not Obama. You too left this mess.
It was so funny because there were points in times where Biden used we, and there were different times when it was Obama. That was funny.
Patriot's got a great point. Our problem when we were talking about
this goes back to the two-way thing that you were talking about, Clover, I believe.
Yeah.
Is this? Go ahead.
Well, when we were talking about this, you can go back through live streams, and I had a sit down with my congressman. Caught him at a town hall. I'm there most of the time anyway. And I said, caught him beforehand, like I tell people to do. Made an appointment. They said, sure, he'll have a few minutes. You can walk him to his vehicle. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So anyway, I cornered him on national reciprocity and Hearing Protection Act.
Mm-hmm.
And he point blank told me, he said, I hate to tell you this. He said, the House will get it through. And Trump was in office at this time. Right.
Okay.
And he said, I hate to say this. He said, my vote was yes. He said, it will continue to be yes. He said, but the problem that both of those face is the Senate. And what's sad is the Senate was under Republican control.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
And he said, I said, well, assuming that the Senate does it, what do you think Trump will do? And he says, Trump will sign it. He says, there's without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem's going to be getting it through the Senate.
There is, obviously, I don't know the man personally. Just from what I have tried to keep up with and read and all that, there is a problem, and I don't know if it's a personal issue. There's something between Mitch McConnell and Trump, I think.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I don't know if it's personal or what, but you're talking about
You're right.
the Senate Majority Leader should not be should not be in feuds with the president. You know, I don't understand that.
That's where what you were talking about, the parties are against him because he's not from their camp.
That's right.
He doesn't tote that line. He walks his own line, and that pisses them off, just like it pisses off the Democrats. And that's sad because the Republicans would rather side with the Democrats against him to say, hey, you can't tell us what to do because you're just the president, when what they're doing is they're hurting everyday citizens with these petty squabbles.
Well, and what you're seeing with Trump now, we talk about third party all the time. If we was to have a third party president without having third party influence in the House and the Senate, you would see exactly what you see now. Trump is don't get me wrong, I'm not a Trumper, and Trump's not the greatest thing since sliced bread. I got tons of problem with him, blah, blah, blah. But Trump is an outsider when it comes to the type of partisan politics that go on in Washington. So you've got the Republicans, the Democrats, and basically the executive branch. Is kind of how it works. You'd have the same thing, I think, if you had a libertarian or whatever as president, assuming that you did not have that party or whatever, whatever party or group that is in alignment with that president, at least some representation in Congress, the House and the Senate. I think you'd end up with the same thing. I mean, it would be like pulling teeth to get anything done.
Wasn't Trump a Democrat for years?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
He as far as politically, he was what he needed to be for his business. Let's be honest.
Right. Well, the point I was going to make is, you're this way or that way, but when it really comes down to the brass tacks and running the country, I think Trump's he's got his head on right. You know what I mean? And and honestly, this country is a business, but it's also a people, and just like a business, you have a manufacturing business employs 1,000 people. Well, you better take care of those 1,000 people and keep them coming back to work. You know what I'm saying? And I like I said, man, I'm going to be 54 at the end of the month. Been watching this crap for years, and I remember seeing Trump way back when, and he was just a big tycoon, and then of course the reality TV anyway. But to see him step up after seeing what he had said through many interviews, he claimed to be a Democrat, but he really wasn't. He was more of a businessman.
He's a moderate.
I gotta say,
a moderate. Yes.
He's fiscally. I've saying that for 4 years. He's fiscally conservative. That's about the only conservative bone in his body is.
Why is he signing all of the stuff that's the national deficit is one thing that he talked about in his campaign. You talked about that earlier. And he keeps signing bills and signing bills and signing bills of spending money. So he's not, if he may be personally, he may be fiscally conservative, but when it comes to being a president, he ain't fiscally conservative.
Let's be honest though. There is no such thing as being a fiscally conservative president.
I
no
don't think
such.
I don't think you can be,
That's
because
exactly
and
what I'm
here's
saying.
part of
There's
the
no way you can be. You have
part
to
of the
sign
problem.
something like this, the stimulus package, because you have one of two options. You can either say, you know what's going to, we're going to spend some money, but we're going to help our people feel better about themselves and what's going on.
Right.
You're not going to sit there as a president and say, I'm not signing that. I'm not going to raise the deficit anymore. Hope you guys are okay. We'll see you in a year. Hope you don't lose everything you own. So there's
and
no
the
way you can be fiscally conservative. You're right, Clover. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the stimulus package. What everybody get $1,200?
Not everybody, but
No,
some.
But that was like the max. And guess what? A lot of those people lost their job that made
Right.
them twice or three times that much a month. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah,
Well, the stimulus
politics and
was-
virus.
The
What
stimulus package wasn't just that check you got; it was adding $600 a week if you went on unemployment.
oh,
That's big.
there's a bunch of stuff for companies and things like
Bunch of
that
stuff.
too.
That's right.
So a
My
bigger
company, my small business benefited greatly from a small business loan that was part of that stimulus package.
a bigger point that I wanted to make about Trump, and I don't think, I think anybody common sense, fair minded, they surely to God they get this. Fringe people never will, of course. But first of all, people look at the president and they go, well, he didn't do X, Y, and Z. He said he was going to. Okay. Just stop for a minute. And if you ever read history and in all of that kind of stuff, you would know this anyway. But stop for a minute and think about not even the day you take office. Think about the day that the transition starts. Because a lot of time the transition starts like the week after the election. You know what I mean? Think about all the information you're privy to that blows your freaking mind. Think about all the stuff Trump knows now, and he found out that he said, oh, crap, I had no idea it worked this way, whether that's good or bad. You know what I mean? I had no idea. I had no idea this even existed. I had no idea this was even going on, right? And then, so whenever you're thinking about the president, think about especially somebody that's running for president that's never been the president before, maybe somebody that's been a cabinet member, maybe somebody that's been a vice president, something like that. Maybe they may be privy to some of it, but give them a little bit of leeway because whoever it is, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, well, whoever, give them a little bit of leeway on what they campaign on, at least first term, because they don't know what they've gotten into, and they're done until they're done into it. Now, my point on Trump is take what Trump has done, take the economy, take just the fact that he shows up, right? And that he is available and he goes on these meetings and he meets with foreign heads of state. This dude, keep in mind, this dude doesn't have to do any of this crap. He didn't have to. He didn't have to run for president. There was no gain in it. I don't get the gain from him. To this day, I don't understand the gain from him running for president. It's a net loss in my mind, if anything.
No, you go for Trump.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Honestly, he was on top of the world. Why did he need to do this?
Did you happen to hear the part of the debate when he literally looked at Biden and he says, I'm looking at you right now. You're the reason why I ran. Did you happen to hear that?
No.
That was it. He said it 2 or 3 times. He looked at him and says, Joe, I'm looking at you right now. You're the reason that I ran. And he said it 2 or 3 times. I think the reason why he ran is because he saw where it was going. Now, here's the thing. Regardless of you believe what you think of Trump as a person, regardless of what you think of him politically, that's your own, and everyone has the right to their own opinions. It's all cool. What I would say about this is one of the reasons that I was excited about Trump in 2016 was for the first time we had someone that wasn't afraid to say what needed to be said. Whether you liked it or not, is what it is. More importantly, he made a promise, which I think he's had a tendency to keep this promise. I'm not saying every single time, but I think it was more about him running the country like a business. Now, are there social aspects that you can't run like a business? Absolutely. But if you try to say, I want to run this like a business, people say, oh, that's crazy. Well, is it really crazy? Because whatever we've been doing for the last 50 years hasn't been working. So let's try something different. And that's why I kind of got excited for Trump in 2016. Now, there are a lot of things that he has done that I am very happy that he did. There are some things that he has done and said that I don't like. Now, there's going to be a lot of talk out there with Jupiter and Venus and out there. Obviously, this guy is going to have the whole spectrum of planets. So let's not ban him unless he personally attacks someone in the chat, and that's cool. I say this, Jupiter Oak Evolution.
You missed the spicy comments that came up earlier. Somebody was claiming that all Trump supporters were ISIS and some other choice comments. So the moderators just sort of said, "Hey, you need to."
Absolutely. So the thing about my moderators, they know what I allow. They know that I allow quite a bit. But I'll say this, Jupiter, I put the link out there and I'll put it out there again. If you want to have a discussion, I'd love to have you on here and be part of the panel, and we'll treat everybody with respect. You treat with respect, we'll treat you with respect. We'll let you talk. We'll let you say. We'll have a nice back and forth. What I would say is, if you don't join the panel, bye. I don't respect anyone that's going to talk from behind a curtain and won't show their face, or at least come out and say it publicly. So, calling you out. You want to have a discussion? We'll have a discussion. I love it. That's what people that know me know. I love the conversation. That's what I do this for. Come on in. Water's warm. It's all good. Someone get ready to say something. Go ahead. Whoever that was.
I was just going to say, just don't come in here saying people are ISIS, and we'll be good.
No, he won't last very long. I promise you that. Let's see if he shows up. I doubt he will. Let's see if he shows up. I hope he does. Media is the enemy. Yeah, exactly. The media is the enemy of everyone, because here's the thing. We were talking earlier, Clover, before you jumped in. It's the truth, okay? And we'll never find out the real truth. Mm-hmm. We hear different people's version of the truth. You've turned to one channel, it's their version of the truth. You read this other newspaper, watch this other channel, it's someone else's truth. The truth is somewhere in the middle of all the bullshit, okay? But we'll never know the full truth. So when we talk about the media, all the media is a megaphone for bullshit. And that's the problem. And you're right.
Well,
all the media is the enemy of everyone, because the media is going to push their own agenda. And there have been proven times that they have put out flat out lies on purpose.
Yeah.
To push their own agenda.
The media has been, for many, many years now, the media has been co-opted. And what's funny is the statement that was made out in the chat that, Republicans say that media is the enemy of the Republicans or something. And what's funny is they don't realize that when the Democrat is in office, the Democrats say the media is the enemy of the Democrats.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's like, I wonder, some of these people that are out there and that spout these things, I wonder how old they are. And I wonder how long they've really been paying attention to politics. And I wonder how read they are when it comes to history, in particular political history. And you'll easily see that all of the major media outlets, major newspapers, certainly the major TV stations, networks, they're so inbred with government. They hire ex-government employees. They are owned and shareholders or ex-government, even current government employees. They're so inbred at this point. How in the world can you ever expect to get the truth from either frickin' side?
That's
How?
Right.
And so that's why you see so many things like your online sources and stuff that are popping up, good, bad, left, right, or center. That's why you see so many alternative sources popping up for news and information.
That's right. Ultimately, let's little what? Oh, okay. Ultimately, what's going to happen with the media is two things. They've got to sell ad space, whether it's on TV and newspaper, magazines, online. They've got to sell ad space because that's where they make their money. The second thing is unfortunately, this started a long time ago. Media outlets, they have a need that they feel like they have to be the first ones to report news to get the, and so they're able, I don't know if they're able, they're definitely able, but they're more than willing to jump on a story without having all the facts and making accusations about whatever the topic is. Take your pick. But they're going to try to jump on something, on a rumor that hasn't been factually checked yet, because they want to be the first ones out there. And you know when that happened? The biggest thing happened was during the Gulf War, because CNN was the only one that had footage, remember, of the first Gulf War in the early 90s. So every other news outlet that was trying to give footage of the Gulf War had that little CNN signal.
Yeah.
That's money. That's absolute money.
Yeah,
And
they
so
were the only ones back then.
that's where we're at right now. Go ahead, Rich. I'm sorry.
Cha-ching.
They
Yep.
were the only 24-hour news source back then,
That's
too.
right.
In high school, depending what class you were going to, that was on in the classroom. You were watching it
No
in
doubt
class
about it.
in real time.
That's right.
We were sitting when it started. We were sitting in the junior RTC room when you saw all the tracers start going up when the first night of air attacks before, when they started the air war portion of it. We were sitting in the junior RTC room. We were there I believe it started on Saturday. We were there because we had a activity we were doing. We were going on an FTX or something along those, or maybe it was a rappelling trip. I forget which trip it was, but it was one of those. It was either an FTX or a rappelling trip. And we're sitting there and we had cartoons on, and somebody's like, guys, we got to put CNN on. I was like, why? The war started. And we're like, oh crap. So we're flipping over to CNN right then and there and, watching the tracers go up, and Baghdad,
Right.
what's his face? That was Baghdad Bob or something.
Yeah.
Sitting there in his hotel room talking about how they can see all the tracers go off, and it's like the 4th of July on steroids.
Yeah. Do you remember in 2002, I guess it would have been, when we actually went into Baghdad again? And I remember when Bush came out and said shock and awe. And I was like, oh, how cool could it be? Man, they shocked all the shit out of the people on TV that night. 90 was a big one. 2002, man, they just dropped a shit ton. But that was the first time, Vietnam was the first time you saw news clips from a conflict. I'm not going to call it a war because it wasn't a war, but that was the first time you saw, like, on TV news.
Like
clips.
live, maybe?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So there's been embedded for ever since.
No, I understand that, but they had newsreels in World War I. I'm talking about Vietnam was the first you saw that, but the Gulf War was the first time that you could turn on a news station and literally watch it 24/7.
Yeah, that
Right
was the
there.
first time you ever saw the shit start hitting the fan live.
Literally.
I can say this. Maybe that was the start of the new digital age where everybody's got a GoPro, or not back then, but now, you know what I mean? And that was the start of, man, it's right there. It's social media or news or whatever. There's the actual footage from this little itty bitty camera that used to be the size of, a typewriter. Now it's the size of a, quarter. Well, not a quarter, but you know what I'm saying. And I think maybe, you're right. I remember watching when Desert Storm, Desert Shield and then Desert Storm. I was working for a carpet company, installing carpet, crawling around on my hands and knees in 91, 89, 90. Yeah. Anyway, but the second time we went into Iraq, and if you look, weapons of mass destruction. Well, Saddam shut us out a million times. And why did we go back? Well, because of that. We said, well, you didn't hold up. And what came of that? Yeah, politics. But yeah, I remember watching it all, man.
And that was a long way to make that one statement. Just messing with you.
I know I'm tired and I'm old.
Yeah, we know that. Yeah, Biden lost. He has potential of losing some states. I don't think he was going to win Texas, although Texas is probably a little closer than people think. Wouldn't win Oklahoma, West Virginia. Rich, what do you think? Has West Virginia, they ever had a chance of going with
Never had
Biden?
a chance here. No.
Yeah, the coal people know what Biden is. He lost. He could have lost, or Ohio and Pennsylvania are in play. Even Michigan's in play. But people don't think about Michigan. They don't think about oil. Well, where are the cars made?
Yeah.
The Motown 5, I promise you, the Motown 5, they have their hands in politics. If you don't think they are, then go ask them.
Here's the thing about Pennsylvania that a lot of people don't realize. The Boilers Makers Union is one of the largest unions in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
They represent the fracking people, the people that, not just Boilermakers. You think Boilermakers Union, you're thinking people that make the boilers for your school, or maybe the boiler you might have in your home if you have radiator heat or the water floorboard heating and whatnot. They also represent the fracking industry, the workers who are in the fracking industry. And they have come out in Pennsylvania, at least, not nationally. Nationally, they haven't endorsed anybody. But in Pennsylvania, the local in Pennsylvania has endorsed Trump.
I know. That's all it takes. I don't have to go nationally. I mean,
no.
Pennsylvania is a swing for sure. So
I'm in Ohio. It's a swing too. Many of the Ohio jobs are coal mining and natural resources. So, yeah.
Yeah, Trump has a weird way of putting people on the wrong side of issues.
So,
and he did a good job on a couple of them tonight.
I hate this, John out there. And I mean, I'm not that I hate what he said, but he says that, I guess in the debate, Biden said he would eliminate oil and gas by 2035. That old geezer ain't going to be around in 2035. What are you doing making promises past your presidency? I get sick of that. Does anybody else get sick of that crap?
The presidency's not going to last much past May 20th.
Whenever you're campaigning for office, you give me political promises you can achieve during your term in office. Period.
Clover, I don't see how Joe's going to do any of them, and I'm thinking that there's this thing about, well, your vice president can take over for 2 years and then she can serve for 10 years. Kamala. Honestly, I don't know how Joe made it through this, but I think the Democrats have a plan that, well, we'll get Joe in and then he'll have a stroke or something and Kamala is going to be the president and she's going to serve for 10 years. Just something I've thought about because it is legal for that to happen. Last vice president to come in and serve was Gerald Ford, and he only got 2 years and he got voted out. But you see what I'm saying? He could have. And I'm just politics, man. There's so much going on behind the scenes that people don't really pay attention to, and you really got to look at the broad spectrum of it.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, Garrity out there says we gave you 8 years as VP. Now you expect something different?
Exactly.
Nope.
47 years in office as a public servant.
7 years. Yep.
Yeah,
He's still writing checks at his bony ass cash.
Yeah, Joe Biden's been in Washington longer than most of us, except A&A, probably have been alive.
Yeah, you're both old as hell.
Right now.
47.
Whatever, Rich White.
Well, you're the only one here that's in your 50s, man. I mean, at least Honcho, I don't know how old he is, but as far as Clover, Ghost, and I, we're in our 40s, man. So, you're in your 50s, brother. So yeah, you're the only one that I know of here on the panel that would have been alive when Biden first took office in Washington.
That's what I mean, and that's what I said. For the longest time, when I was younger, I grew up shooting and all that, blah blah blah. Until I got married young, until I started working at the gun store that I worked in through the whole 90s and the range and everything. And man, I really started paying attention. And it's like politics. Oh yeah. You never paid attention to that when you're a kid and all you want to do is shoot your BB gun and run around the neighborhood. Man, you get a little older and you start paying attention to politics, which is what is going to pretty much rule your life, which means, oh, we're going to pass a law that says you can do this or you can do that. Or then you look at the 2A and shit, I grew up shooting guns and whatever. To see it being chipped away at the way it has been, man, I don't know. So yeah, I guess I am older than you guys, but I think you guys see it too. You know what I mean? You're no dummies. You see this. I'm glad to be hanging out with you guys, man, because whether I'm older or younger, it doesn't matter. We all see the same thing.
Hey man, I'm with you. All these whippersnappers don't know, but the truth is, if I was alive at that time, and by
You almost
God,
then.
I by God voted against him too. So I knew what he was then. I know what he is now.
Yeah.
Coming from the family, my family was split politically, but it wasn't because they were against each other. My mother was a teacher and a Democrat. She believed in education. My father was a Republican and a businessman. But together, they taught me the bonuses of both, and that's why I don't see red and blue myself. I think that's a shell game. Look at where's the ball going to end up. You don't know. You're not looking at the hands. The hands are taking the money. The hands are taking away your rights. The hands are doing things, and you're voting them into office. We have to be attentive. We have to be awake. We have to be informed, and we have to stick together, because that's how things happen. That's how change comes about. People vote, people talk, people listen. We teach young people. So it's all part of that.
Yeah, the biggest issue that most people are going to have as far as the younger, my daughter's 23, so I'm going to say that early 20s, that this might be like the first election they voted in. I think my daughter was old enough to vote in 2016. She was old enough, but I think she chose not to because she and I respect that. She says, "Look, I didn't put the time in. I didn't really research anything. I didn't watch any of the debates. I didn't do anything. I didn't really care. So I'm not going to vote because any vote that I give wouldn't be an educated vote." And I said, "That's your choice. It's your vote. You do what you want to do." And all that. I think she's going to vote this time. But it's interesting that this generation, and it kind of goes back into the media and everything else, that this generation, they're driven on emotions. And very few people are going to take the time out of their lives. I don't care what side of the political arena you play in. Very few people that are the younger generations are going to take the time to actually do research. They're going to rely on the media. This is where I was going back to the whole media thing. They're going to rely on the media, and they're going to rely on whatever media they watch. So let me ask you this, Clover, Honcho, Rich, if you do watch the TV media, do you watch one specific, or do you happen to watch kind of both sides? I mean, or what do you guys typically do? I watch both sides. I'll watch because I want to hear it being spun from both sides, because someone knows the answer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I watch very little. I watch very little TV because, again, these old, and by old I mean more than a couple decades, and Fox News is that. News channels are huge, bloated, and then if you look through all the red tape, you can find the written sources, the newspapers they own, and this, that, and the other, right? They're all connected. So as far as that big bloated media conglomerate that's connected, very little. But I do try to look at multiple sources, but then I try to go to people that have some type of education, or at the topic at hand. You know what I mean? It's one thing getting a perspective or whatever from a talking head, or some journalist. It's something totally different when you're listening to somebody that is a proven expert in their field. And so that's a lot of times that's the rabbit holes that I'll chase down.
Yep.
If it's something that I'm really trying to understand, some topics that go on, I could care less about. And I think a lot of people are that way. A lot of people are that way with the 2A, unfortunately.
Yeah. If you're not a 2A, if you're not in entrenched in the two-way. The two-way, the vast majority of America doesn't really give a damn about. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Hey, sweetheart.
One of my thoughts is no matter what the interest you're intrigued in, or if you really are serious about it, do research, and don't just research one side. Look at it all.
Yeah.
Look deep. Study. Look at history, and not what some people want to call history. Look at history that wasn't approved history. You might want to read that too. So history is written by the winners, correct?
It's true.
Most of it is. Most of it is. 3.5 hours. This has turned into much more of a watch party, which I love. I love having the discussion. Really wish some of those people would have shown up to have the discussion with us, but it is what it is. I'm going to go through the room, and if anyone, let's kind of start sweeping the floor here. A&A, good to have you on, bro. I like giving you shit. I like making fun of you, but you're an all right dude. What do you got coming up on the channel? Do you want to plug anything? Go for it.
Well, I give you shit too, so we're all brothers. We all give each other. Yeah, look, we're free thinkers. Honestly, with our channel, my brother Derek and I, life's been busy. Hopefully, something's going to happen soon. We have recorded a bunch of crap, and nothing's happened because COVID and working from home and doing this and yeah. Anyway, other than that, man, thanks for having me. Anybody listening, if you don't know me, A&A, Armament and Axis, blah. But yeah, I'm always good to hang out, man. Conversation, keeping up with each other and talking this out. And I think that's something that, we can have varying opinions, but unfortunately in our political thing going on, no, you can't think that way, and we're not even gonna. I don't know, man. It's just politics. Getting tired and old. Gonna let it go. And peace to all. Stay 2A strong. And thank you, Trey.
You got it. Before we go on, I don't know why Patriot's not in here. I've only put the link out there at least 27 damn times. But Patriot does have the Project 1770, Patriot 1776 project to coincide with the 1,000 sub giveaway. Go check out Patriot in the Dark. Yeah, awesome dude, good friend, great channel, and he's doing a really cool project about heroes. So go check that out. I think you have to the first drawing, I think it was November 4th. But go check out his channel, go check out his video that's called the 1776 project. Pretty cool stuff. Honcho, what you got going on? Anything?
Yeah, I got a few things coming up in the works. Go check it out at gearreport.com. Some new reviews coming out with all the good friends there. As always, thanks for hosting these. These are always fun, and appreciate you allowing us to jump in and share and just have the discussion. So yeah, thanks.
That's what it's all about. And that's the thing is we don't always have to agree on these conversations. We don't have to be all in lockstep with whatever. That's where the great conversation happens, is when we don't always agree. Rich and I, man, we agree on probably 99% of stuff, but there are certain things that Rich and I just fundamentally don't agree with. And we can have some pretty
intense,
cool conversations. We can. Cool is a good way of putting it, because we also know there's a line there. There's a line we won't cross. Or we might cross that line during the conversation, but as soon as the conversation is over, hey, bro, we're good. Yeah, bro, we're good. It's the conversation, because there are people out there that are having the same conversation right now. And I think that's what the beautiful thing about politics. I love politics. I think that people hate it. I hate where it is kind of going. But politics is how this country runs. And without politics, you don't understand why certain things happen, why there are checks and balances. Why is it that President Trump can't just do whatever he wants? Oh, wait, because he has Congress to worry about. And then if they do something really crazy, The judicial system's there. There's checks and balances. It's amazing. I'm going back to the Constitution real quick and the founding fathers. It is amazing to me because people forget this also. The vast majority of the people that wrote the framework of our country were under the age of 35. Under the age, many of them were under the age of 30.
Way younger than the average.
That's what I'm saying
nowadays. Yeah.
You have to be 35 to run for president now. Most of the guys that wrote who we are were under 35. And the fact that they had the mentality and the foresight of, and let's say they had the balls to think of this way of life. And 250 years later, we're like, yeah, we have our problems. Sure do. Absolutely. Do you want to live somewhere else? Nope. I'm good. It's pretty remarkable that a bunch of late 20s, early 30s people 250 years ago had the foresight to sit there and say, we're going to write down on paper the greatest country in the world, and we're going to form it right here, right now. And 250 years later, they're still going to think of us as patriots.
Yeah.
If you don't get your hairs tingly when you think about that, then you shouldn't be here. I'm just saying. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to say, do you know why they set the age at 35 for the president? Because at that age, you were an old man back then.
An old man. Yeah, you were an old man back then, honestly.
I was just going to say that because, and you're funny, you mentioned that. It's like, shit, I was getting divorced at 32. And you're exactly right. The life expectancy rate at that age, back at that time, it's like, yeah, you're an old man at 35. I didn't feel old at 35. I feel old now, but anyway.
You weren't old, but your life expectancy, you were an old man at 35 back then.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you had people living to be 70, 80 years old, but that was not
the average was like 47 or something,
Yeah.
Middle age was 25.
Yeah.
Well, I wish I was middle-aged again, damn it.
Hey, man, quit yelling, bro. Quit yelling.
35 back then was 65 today,
I'm sorry, I'm having problems with my microphone. I said I wish I was middle-aged again.
My eardrums out. Yeah, my eardrums almost got blown out. So, Clover. Rich. Before you, Rich, plug what you got to plug. Do what you got to do, man.
Okay, there's most likely not going to be a show this weekend.
You're going to be out of town or something, aren't you?
Yeah, we're going to Gettysburg. Meet up with some buddies up there.
Nice.
So my wife's got 3 days off, and it just it was a perfect storm, right? Some people I haven't seen in a while, they're going to be in town up in Gettysburg, hanging out, doing stuff up there. So she got the 3 days off at the same time. So we're taking off up there, heading up there for the weekend. Well, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So not going to have, most likely will not have a show. It depends on maybe if I can get my 2-in-1 to cooperate and do it. I might do a short show, maybe Sunday night, but don't expect one. Just throw that out there. Don't expect there to be one.
If I see the notification that you've gone live, then I'll tune in. Yep. Hopefully I'll get a notification if you do go live.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know how my 2-in-1 will do it. I haven't gone live on that one, so I don't know how well that's going to handle it. It should be able to handle it though. It's got an i3 in there and whatnot, so it's not like it's one of the true tablet replacement ones. So. And people go live on their tablets and cell phones, so I should be able to do it depending on how the internet is up at the hotel. But that depends on how busy we are. It's the main thing,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, be safe. Love Gettysburg, by the way. Have fun. Kind of Gettysburg is a cool place, but it's an eerie place too. It's a cool place, but if you sit back and think about what have you, like, wow.
Yeah, well, that's why
imagine what this place was, 100 and something years ago. He was like, okay, none of these buildings were here. It was a big field, and it's amazing to think of,
Yeah, my friends are going. The whole reason why they're going is they're they do paranormal investigation stuff. So that's why they're going to Gettysburg. They're going to be looking for, just checking out the cemetery and stuff.
Sure.
And I was just going to say that I've seen a lot of paranormal stuff come from there, and I have paranormal investigating friends, and there's been some crazy stuff documented at Gettysburg.
Oh, yeah, there's some crazy stuff. If you get a chance, Fort Pitt's closer to you than what Gettysburg is. If you get a chance to run over to Pittsburgh area, check out Fort Pitt. I've seen something in the blockhouse there, which is the only part of Fort Pitt that's still standing. They turned it into a gift shop. We went on a field. We were always going on field trips there because I grew up in Pittsburgh. But one in high school, the last time I went there, we were in the gift shop towards the end of the, after we went through the tour of the museum itself. We all went into the gift shop. My buddy, I'm looking at something in the counter. My buddy taps me on my shoulder. Right, I'm like, what? He's like, he's pointing. He looks like Abbott or Lou Costello in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein when the Frankenstein monster first pops up out of the crate.
Abbott!
Hey guys, can this wait till the after chat? I haven't used the restroom or smoked in 3.5 hours. I want to get this done.
I look up. There is a transparent British soldier standing there at the bottom of the stairs that go to the upper floor.
Wow. Hey, Trey. Trey, you can go pee and light a cigarette. I'm smoking.
Okay, I'm just going to mute that real quick. Clover, go ahead, man. Plug away.
I don't have anything I'm going to plug for myself, but I do want to say thanks for the chat here, post debate and all that, and doing this. And also for everybody out there, 2A rally Saturday. Don't miss it. Jump over to, Second Amendment Rally, 2ND amendmentrally.com. Sign up, jump over on their YouTube, be ready to go. Can't remember, like 3 Eastern or something, but the time's over there. Go look. Going to be a cool time.
Is that the one Rob Pincus is promoting? Yep. Okay. Yep.
AmendmentRally.com. It's awesome. It's over 30 speakers. It's going to take about 2 hours altogether, I bet, and all that. But yeah, SecondAmendmentRally.com. Rally for your 2A rights, officially, I believe is what it's called. Rally for your 2A rights. If nothing else, I know it's going to be a little bit weird because it is kind of a virtual rally. Worst case scenario, you're going to learn about a bunch of really cool people. There are going to be people that you have never heard of give speeches. And if nothing else, it's going to increase your library of people that you're now going to listen to. There's some really cool people that you probably never heard of. They're going to be giving speeches Saturday. So there's some people you have heard of. There's some cool people that you haven't ever heard of. They're really doing a great job. So yeah, most definitely. If nothing else, they also have a YouTube page called 2A Rally. They'll be live streaming it all on there as well. Worst case scenarios, if you're busy, turn on that live stream and at least listen to all the speeches. So, yeah, I gotta smoke, man. It's been 3 hours and 41 minutes. I had a great time. I wasn't probably going to do this tonight, but Midnight Range kind of shamed me into it. And what's that? He's the first person that left. So don't even start A&A. Don't even start. We're getting ready to hang this up. So
I was just going to say, I'm going to hit my cigarette and think of you.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that everyone does go out there to the Second Amendment rally, watch it, be as engaged with that as you can. That is where you're going to be with like-minded people, but everyone has different things that they're interested in. So enjoy conversation, meet people that you may not have met, tell other people that you think that might enjoy it to go to a rally, to secondamendmentrally.com, 2A rally at 2A rally on Instagram and 2A rally on, YouTube, their channel. They'll have it all streamed right there. If you want to go find all, go to secondamendmentrally.com. That'll have all the links there and all that. As far as us, I don't even know what's happening this weekend. I'm tired. I'm so close to the light at the end of the tunnel that I can actually take a breather at work. So let me get through the next week and I'll have a lot more stuff coming out. But yeah, thanks for coming out. Like I said, thanks for Midnight for shaming me into this and being the first one to leave. It is what it is. How much for cigarettes now? Man, it's way too much. Way too much. Here they're about $7.50 a pack. $7.50 a pack, give or take. Yeah. More expensive than pipe tobacco for sure. All right, we're getting out of here. Thanks for coming. You guys can stick around the after chat. We can have fun, but I'm gonna cut this off now. Thanks again for everyone watching. Go vote. Make sure that your voice is heard. That is the one true duty you have as an American, is to vote. And if you don't vote, that's cool. You don't have to, but do not complain about what happens. We'll see you soon. Semper Fidelis.